Welcome to episode 117 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast.
Your co-host is playing musical chairs on you.
I would say I don't know if I ever get the same co-host every week, but this week Robert is out, Katie is in,
Yay,
and Megan's filling in for Robert.
What's up?
So I'm here every week. That's all I know.
Yep.
But yeah, episode 117. Let's go ahead and do our sponsor stuff. Get that out of the way.
Absolutely. If you're looking for a high quality PVC rack, look no further than Lone Star Reptile Racks. They offer a variety of sizes for all types of snakes, geckos, rats, and more. You can even order something custom. Shipping is available, or you can plan to pick up at a Herps Reptile show near you. Visit lsreptileracks.com to reach out to Lone Star Reptile Racks and place your order today.
Yes. And also Herps Reptile shows, which we have Lafayette coming up soon.
Absolutely. Not this weekend, but next weekend.
Yeah, June 4th and 5th, we'll be back over in Louisiana for Lafayette show.
And then the weekend after that, we're in Conroe.
Yeah, but you skipped ahead of the part where I was excited because I get to have Boudin.
Okay.
I'm getting Boudin.
Okay.
I might bring Boudin back.
You have like literally one night to eat because we have to drive over after a workshop.
Yes, but I can stop at Billy's and get frozen Boudin balls, bring them back, and then cook them here in the air fryer.
You can absolutely do that. I will allow you to do that.
Well, I'm not asking for fish. I'm getting Boudin balls. But yeah, so we have Lafayette, then we have Conroe, the big Conroe show, June 11th and 12th. That's Katie's birthday. Don't tell anybody. June 11th and 12th will be in Conroe. That's also, by the way, the weekend that
the new Jurassic Park movie comes out.
Well, it's Jurassic World, but still, who's counting? But that is the weekend that opens up, and I have to go see that.
We're going to see it for my birthday.
I don't know if I'm going to see it or not.
We're going to totally next week. We're
gonna
binge watching them all.
I'm not a fan of the movies after the first one. The first one is the best, and it's the only one that
I'm going to have
matters.
to tell you to fuck off.
I 100% all of
The
them.
only one,
Even the really bad one. Like
No. Everyone agrees number 3 is fucking horrible. No one needs to watch number 3.
I
just
absolute
love
worst.
it.
3 is the worst movie.
It's terrible.
But the new ones are good. I like Chris Pratt.
I like Chris Pratt.
I like the new ones.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how that doctor keeps.
We're gonna-
he's dead now. He's got to be dead. No, he's not dead. He's in the new ones.
We're going to binge them this week when we get out of school.
Anyways, June 25th, 26th, Longview, Texas. So if you're in North Louisiana or East Texas, go to the Longview, Texas show. Then over to July 23rd, 24th, that's Slidell. It's during the summer, so I'll actually get to go to that one. Then there's the Oklahoma City show, July 30th and 31st. I'm not going to that one. Corpus Christi is August 13th and 14th. That's around when school.
That's right before school starts.
Is it?
Yes.
When does school start?
School starts on the 17th, 18th.
Oh man, that's so much better. I thought it started earlier.
We'll be in workshops that week,
Fuck 'em up.
but we won't have kids.
Anyways, Bryan College Station, August 20th, 21st. Again, that's also a great chance to check out the Herps Reptile Shop. If you haven't checked it out over there in Bryan, Texas, the Herps Reptile Shop is amazing. And then Austin, Texas, August 27th, 28th. And past that, I'll fill you in later on. Also, check out our friends at Wiregrass Exotics over in Ozark, Alabama. Go there for your feeders. Check out some awesome animals, rattlesnakes, stuff like that. Our giveaway up here on the wall. It's still May.
Got one more week.
This is the last week. Get in your picture of your US ARC membership, just a little screenshot, post it onto the post that I have on our Facebook page. It's pinned there at the top. And you're entered in for the giveaway for this amazing chameleon mandala from our friends over at Crafty Gargoyle. You should definitely check them out on Facebook, Crafty Gargoyle, see what they make. I'm always amazed every time that Talina posts something new.
And they have all kinds of stuff. They don't just have
It's not just
mandalas.
And yeah, that's true.
I mean, they have other things.
I bought Joe one of
these
those.
are absolutely gorgeous.
I bought Joe one of those things to roll die for D&D, even though she's never played D&D yet.
What?
She so wants to.
I'm working on it.
She really wants to, but the problem is her parents don't play it.
Well, and her parents don't want to commit to a 1-hour trip once a week.
I don't want to do that either. Anyways, they make a lot of stuff.
I'm working on it.
Check out Crafty Gargoyle. Other huge news I posted this week, and I'm super excited about it. We are partnering up with VivTech. As much as we talk about VivTech on every episode, I love their light bulbs. I love their UV meter, everything they do. They're amazing. But if you're buying a light bulb or a UV meter or the little snake bags, whatever they have, you can use the promo code GUMBO22 for 15% off your purchase. So,
and that qualifies for us too, since the hosts never qualify for anything.
That's true. We can actually use it.
This makes me very happy because I've already sent the code to several people who are very excited about it. So some of them who have been thinking about trying VivTech bulbs but haven't made the leap yet. And so I'm like, here's your code. Go get them.
It's
They're awesome.
It's a no-brainer once you actually do the math on a VivTech bulb versus everything else.
Yeah.
I had somebody, we worked a reptile show this weekend, and I was talking to somebody about their bearded dragon, and they had a ceramic heat emitter and a big heat lamp that
Mhm.
gives off the UV. I can't remember what it's called. The solar. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I told him like get the UV. The UV bulb, the LED UV bulb doesn't put off heat. You can still use your ceramic heat emitter for heat. It'll last 4+ years. So it's a no-brainer. Go use the Gumbo 22 is the promo code for that. Gumbo 22. All right. So let's get to our guests. So you don't have to keep sitting there because we were forever because my computer didn't like me. I'm gonna bring them in. There is Mr. Zac Loughman. How's it going?
Going well.
So
Can't complain.
I'll let Zac, you explain what you do, and then we'll get into everything else. But I've always found it super interesting, and I'm upset that it didn't exist when I went to school.
No, okay. So I'm Dr. Zac. Some people call me. I'm the chair of a biology department at the university that I teach at, West Liberty University. We have two departments. We have biomedical sciences, which I don't do, and then the fun stuff, which is ecology, evolution, organismal biology, and zoo science. And so the thing that brought me back to herpetoculture, I did herpetoculture literally. I didn't call it herpetoculture, but I kept snakes and lizards and frogs, all of our animals that we love, all through high school and college. Went to graduate school and got buried with responsibilities there and kind of got away from herpetoculture. Then we started the zoo science major here at West Liberty in 2016. I initially was not supposed to be the guy in charge of it. And the guy who was supposed to be in charge of it was so good at his job that he got offered a directorship at a zoo. And he could either stay at the university and make some money or be the director of a zoo and make a lot of money. So he bounced there. And then I was told, you're the guy in charge of this major. So I did a nosedive into herpetoculture. What was that, 6 years ago? And literally have loved every second of it. And so here at the university, I oversee the zoo science major. The zoo science major is a major for undergraduates that prepares people to work in animal husbandry. And while we say zoo sci, this degree helps you get a job with fish and wildlife, with repatriation efforts, and all the science behind that. And then as far as the zoo world's concerned, I know that both of you have zoo experience, and being an introductory keeper is one job. But if you want to be lead keeper, assistant curator, you kind of need some academics backing you. So
Yeah.
This degree is kind of suited to get people a lot of experience while they're getting their college degree. So when they get hired, they can get to those positions that pay better to faster. And then, so we do that. And prepping for the major, we wanted to be the zoo sci program that had the animals on site. So I kind of have a dream job where I was literally told, build a reptile and amphibian collection.
That is
And
so
then
cool.
I was given a budget, and I kind of like dropped at the budget.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
So I basically initially, and everybody knows this, I got all the animals I wanted when I was 19. The second thing we purchased was a water monitor because I knew that I could build, and we just finished building it, a 15 by 15 by 10 foot cage enclosure for it. So
you're living everybody's dream, man.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So but currently we have over 400 animals here at the school.
Wow.
We've purchased everything in replicate because we don't just have animals to have them. They're here to teach the students how to do animal husbandry, how to use a program similar to something called ZIMS. If people know what that is in the zoo world, we use something called animal care software, but it's modeled off of that. And then we have all these animals in replicate because the other thing that we have is there's a handful of zoo sci programs for undergraduates, but we are the only zoo sci graduate degree on planet Earth. And so that means we have to do master's theses, and that requires research. And you can't just study one snake. You need like 30 snakes. So we have certain taxa that we've basically taken on to be models for herpetoculture. So we have like more corn snakes than you can shake a stick at, lots of Western hogs or plains hogs.
I saw you got eggs the other day from black pines.
Yes. We have a bunch of Pitchophis, and the loading eye are part of that colony. Basically, you come here to do your master's degree, you're going to be doing herpetoculture with other people's animals because they're the animals that I'm taking care of. And then my favorite animals are false water cobras. You can't have 30 false water cobras. That's a 9-foot colubroid. That's enormous. But we do have 15 of them. So
I just want one.
Yeah.
Just one.
So we've got giant cages or enclosures, and we're publishing papers and basically trying to take herpetoculture and get it some professional respect is what in academic circles, that's one of the things that I'm big on. And, I have my fancy PhD and everything, but I try to be as down to earth as I possibly can.
I do want to say,
so
I was almost positive you were a doctor, and I went and looked for it, and it says professor everywhere, and I'm like, fuck, I'm pretty sure he's a doctor. So I didn't put it on anything because I make fun of Travis every time I have him on anything.
But yet you don't make fun of Warren Booth.
Because he's Warren Booth. But I do call Warren a doctor.
No. People make a bigger, it's a pain in the ass to get.
I was about to say, the fact that it is as difficult as it is to get, you better believe if I ever do that, every person out there is referring to me as doctor.
Oh, I will be one of those dicks. And I've met plenty of them that, like, if you don't say doctor, they get really upset.
Yeah. No, I'm not that guy. I actually prefer professor to doctor because I think it's more in line with my way of being, because I'm a teacher first and a professor second. So
I just picture those assholes are the ones, like, if you're on a plane and someone's sick and like, we need a doctor, and they say, I'm a doctor, and they go, great, I'm not that kind of doctor. They have to tell people they're a doctor.
No, I'm not that guy. I've never been that. So anyway, but no, that's kind of the lowdown. And the thing that's really weird about my world is I have two loves biologically. Herps have always been there, like since I was little. And when I went to get my master's degree, that was in the early 2000s. And that's when Steve Irwin and Jeff Corwin and Mark O'Shea and everybody was on Animal Planet. And it was a really weird time in herpetology academically, because there were a lot of people getting graduate degrees to study snakes.
Yeah.
And I realized that at that time I was not getting a doctorate. I was going to get my master's and go be a field biologist and be happy. And my advisor very serendipitously told me that you should find an animal that no one studies and be the guy. And so that's where the crayfish came into play. And so I get to study both the animals that I love to death, and they're about as different from each other as you can possibly get. And I am from the north, so I say crayfish.
It's okay. We won't hold it against you.
It's crawfish down there. I've been
I cringed a little bit. I won't lie. I totally cringed.
You cringe all you want.
I haven't heard somebody refer to them as crayfish in a very long time.
And I understand that in East Texas and Louisiana, that's like almost, or it is committing a sin.
It's sacrilege, no doubt. Yes. But I also like, I guess because I've never studied them from the scientific, like I just eat them. I'll be honest.
I eat them too.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I was like, well, maybe there's like a different type.
Oh, there's tons.
Well, no, but like the kind that we eat on a regular basis, and like versus the other, like.
Yeah, we eat the red one.
So I was like, maybe that's why it's crawfish or crayfish or.
No,
dirty.
So the way that their names work, it's kind of interesting. There's no convention on common names. You can call it the rainbow purple spotted twiddle twat if you want to, and that's now the
That's like how the name birds.
I need to write that down.
That's totally how the name birds. Like
on something that's not school
if you ever look at bird common names, that's a bunch of horny motherfuckers that name birds.
Yeah, totally. But you still kind of have to, like, that's what you're taught in school and everything. But they do have groups of nerds like me that sit around tables and kind of make lists and publish them and say, this is the suggested common name for these animals. And crayfish have had that. And ironically, there are not many that have crawfish as the official name, but one of them lives here with me. It's an all blue animal that lives in a burrow. It doesn't live in the creek. And it's technically its common name, if you go by the list, is the blue crawfish, but it's nowhere near the Gulf Coast. It's like up here in northern Appalachia. When you get down, you get down to where you are, all of those animals are crayfish, which is interesting. So
That's fine.
That really bothers me.
yeah, there
Crayfish.
you go.
Yes, it really bothers me.
What?
You know what else bothers me? Pecan versus pecan.
It's not pecan. It's
Okay.
never pecan.
And that right there, it's the further towards Georgia you go,
It is.
it's pecan.
It is pecan.
It's
and
not
then
pecan.
the further
It is
away
pecan.
from
It's
Georgia,
not pecan.
It is pecan.
No.
pecan.
It's pecan.
It's pecan.
Well, you're wrong. All right, so
For
you've been wrong on two things
another-
tonight. Great.
Wow. Okay. I don't know why I keep coming back.
Well, let's see if Zach has. Do you say pop or soda?
Pop.
Ah, fuck, he is from the north.
Ew.
I'll
God
say
damn.
he said he was.
Yeah, but I was hoping he would.
that hurts.
But he's in West Virginia,
Yeah.
and it's kind
See,
of
I don't say
south-ish.
soda.
So West Virginia, no one knows we exist. For the record, if you say you're from West Virginia, then people tell you they know people in Richmond, and then you just kind of stare at them.
I know
Freaking
people in
Virginia.
Martinsburg. Does that count?
Yeah, that's West Virginia.
Yeah.
But the two panhandles we have our own dialect, and then there's like the middle part of the state, and they have their own dialect. And I'm here in the northern panhandle, which is sandwiched between Ohio and Pennsylvania. So
Oh yeah, it's north. That's north.
yeah, but it's weird because you drive literally 35 minutes south from where I'm sitting, and that's where the twang shows up.
Yeah, you
like-
get closer to Virginia because Virginia's south.
Yeah, when you get down there down southern
In the mountains.
West Virginia, like Bluefield, which is just on the Virginia border, it's thick down there.
I've been through West Virginia once.
And
Yeah.
drove quick.
Well, I wasn't the one driving. We were stationed at Fort Belvoir when I was a teenager. We drove from Washington D.C. to Washington State.
Fuck that.
It was
There you go.
super fun.
Holy cow.
You probably
My-
drove right by me.
Might have.
on
It was my
I-70.
one and only experience with West Virginia. It was very late at night. I was thoroughly creeped out by the gas station we were at, and I haven't wanted to go back since.
The only
But I
things I
might
ever,
give it another shot.
the only things I ever know about West Virginia are one, obviously John Denver,
Yes.
Obviously.
Well,
and two, how do my brains go? Oh shit, wide receiver, Randy Moss.
oh.
Yeah.
I didn't
Randy-
know
I
where you were
just-
going with
I
that.
just
not
think about how like
Yeah.
y'all are just quiet up there doing your own thing. You're not making the news for anything, and we're in the news every day.
They're making local news. They're not making.
Well, they're making
No.
local news, but it's not like, Florida man strikes again or something like that,
We have a reputation that I'm not going to say that there aren't parts of West Virginia that are not deserving of our reputation. I've been
There's some
all
banjo
over the
music up
state, and
there.
it exists.
legit.
But there are
They-
definitely
they-
states that are wilder than ours. So
Go along with
say that.
probably some of the jokes that,
Yes.
people have been telling for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
So
but yeah, that's it.
it's very interesting that you have the program for the zoo side, because I know as someone who worked at a zoo that the hardest part about getting a job at a zoo is getting experience at a zoo. It's a
Yes.
weird fucking system. Like, we won't hire you unless you have experience. Okay, that's
Mhm.
great. Yeah, but you can't get experience unless you have a job.
It's like the
Yep.
credit
And
score
so-
debacle.
It's very hard. And so with this program, at least they can go look, apply for a job. I've got all of this experience.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to go try and be slave labor at some zoo as a volunteer for forever.
Yeah, and we have an AZA zoo that's right down the road. It's very small. It's one of the smallest in the country. That's the one that Joe went to, but it's AZA. And we have it arranged where the students can actually go there, intern during the semester, and they can spend literally as much time as they want. So it's built into our degree. When you graduate, you walk out with 2,000 hours of AZA experience. And that's like the
Amazing.
magic
Wow.
number that you need to go into a job normally. And then we also have built into the degree, they don't have to do one internship. We make them do two. So,
Oh, cool.
and you can do an internship at Ogilvy, which is about 12 minutes down the road. So during the semester. So no matter what, we just hammer the AZA hours. Like you're right. That's the number one issue. And we've come up with a way to deal with that. And it's funny because the grad degree, we thought the grad degree we made it so it's totally online. You can do it anywhere in the country. And the idea was that we were going to have all these keepers that were going to want to do this, get their master's degree so they can then level up into like assistant curator or lead keeper or even curator. And it turns out that that's not happening, because if you have this job in the zoo and you can figure out how to survive financially, you may not be able to afford the graduate degree.
I had a zoo tell me that once when I interviewed. They're talking about pay, and they're like, well, our keepers find a way to make it. Like, no, I'm good.
or you love your job and you figured out a way to exist and you're just going to stick with it. So what we get a lot of are actually people who, like, their junior, senior year of undergrad, they went off and they had to do an internship for their biology program. And they're just like, well, I'll go do one in a zoo. And then they end up finding out that they love that, but now they can't get a job because they don't have any experience. So we have this graduate opportunity for people, so that they are able, but we help them find internship placement with that, because we have a lot of relationships with a lot of different zoos. And they end up doing the master's thesis. And there's 3 of us that advise, and I obviously do the herp stuff. So anybody that does this with me is going to be doing a reptile or amphibian based thesis. I say that, but I have a student who was just in Costa Rica studying sloths, and I'm advising her too. So if somebody has an animal that I like, I'll totally bounce to it. But that's something that's kind of, cool about this whole system, and it's working. I mean, one of the nice things about, I can say this, and it's a fact, it's not a plug. Every single person that has gone for the master's degree is employed in a zoo now. Like, we don't have that that rate of our MS in biology, the normal master's degree that people get, the thing that I have. We have a couple that people that have graduated and don't have jobs, but the MS in zoo science, the people are getting jobs. Like, AZA definitely is noticing that, and they're getting decent jobs at some of the union zoos and other zoos that have really solid salaries. So
That's awesome. I used to have to drive, as my senior year of college, I'd drive about an hour and a half away, like 2 or 3 times a week, just to go volunteer at a zoo all day long, just so I had some experience. And then I kind of looked into my job, because I applied to every zoo in the Southeast, throughout all of Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. I may have gotten into Texas, actually. And it was the zoo in Alexandria, Louisiana was the only one that, I'll tell you that. There was one other that replied, and it was in an expensive part of Florida. And that was the one that told me they'd say their keepers find a way to make it. They're like, sometimes they room together. I was like, that's not what I fucking want. I don't know.
No,
yeah, I got you.
But I know there's a place in Florida, isn't there, that does. Yeah.
Yep. They have an associate's degree, a 2-year degree.
Yeah.
And we have had a couple people get that degree, and then they bounce to us to get the 4-year degree. So there's a way now in the zoo world where you can get an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's all in zoo. That exists.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
did not exist for me when I was.
But a lot of people talk about the pay with zoos, and that's totally a thing. I'm not denying that isn't a thing. But the thing about zoos is that if you want to go and that you want that to be your world, you have to be willing to bounce around the country and be a nomad till you land at the right zoo that has the right salary, and your salary goes up with the experience you have. And when you get out of that keeper state and get up into lead keeper, assistant curator, that's when you're making a decent chunk of change.
And that was my problem. Like the two careers that I am best for are 2 of the hardest jobs to get into. One is zookeeping, and the other is like field biologist, like wildlife fisheries jobs. Because if any of those jobs ever open, there's like 1 million people applying to them.
Oh yeah, they're super competitive.
And if you don't know somebody, it's very hard.
Yep.
Yes, I agree with that. 100%.
When I left, the second time I tried to be a zookeeper, I was soul crushed, because I got down to me and one other person for the job at a zoo that I had wanted to work at since the first time I'd ever gone there. And I remember my dad came to visit when I was waiting for the call. We played golf so I could start taking my mind off of it. And they got a phone call while we were on the golf course that I didn't get it. Fucking miserable the rest of the day. But it's a rough field, but it is. I do miss it. I miss working with crocs. I miss working with venomous snakes. I miss my giant tortoises. I don't miss 110 degrees with 100% humidity in the middle of summer.
You also don't miss that goose.
No, that sounds like fun.
And spur-winged geese can fuck off.
That they can.
Fucking goose. I hate waterfowl.
No, I'm with you on that. I was a zookeeper in college, and we had tundra swans. And the tundra swans made a nest at the end of the freaking boardwalk. Like, literally, you walked off the boardwalk into a nest of tundra swans. And if you were less than 4 feet tall, they were convinced they could kill you, and they tried. So
I had in my tortoise yard, we had Aldabras and Galops in one big tortoise yard together, and I had Egyptian geese, and they were fucking wonderful. That was the first time I realized that they sound exactly like velociraptors. Well, they sound like the Jurassic Park version of velociraptors. I was cleaning tortoises, and all of a sudden, it's like, it's a fucking velociraptor. And then I realized it was the goose. And then I was great. It was a wonderful world. Everybody in that yard was happy. And then my director told me one day we were going to move them and give me the spur winkies. I'm like, what the fuck? What did I do? And so, of course, that thing will come running from across the yard to kill you. And
No lie.
I missed it. It was my day off. The keeper filling in for me on my day off. She was walking around the edge of the pool, and that thing fucking came at her face and knocked her into the pool. So I built a cage.
Did nobody warn her?
Oh, she knew, but she had her handful of tortoise tray, like the pans and everything.
Yeah.
It was too late. The thing.
If you knew our old zoo director, though, he passed away a few years back.
His favorite line, because I said, hey, can I build a cage to put around him? So when I walk in there, I just throw the cage on him, do what I got to do. I let it out. And he goes, no one's ever been killed by a goose.
It didn't matter what you were talking about. That was his line. No one's ever been killed by.
So we just finally got like, no one's ever been killed by a tiger. No one's ever been killed by a lion. Like,
yeah.
But I was like, I told him like, no one's ever been killed by a paper cup, but it fucking hurts.
I mean, nobody was ever killed by a bear until they were.
Yes, but that was the best ending to a movie ever. Did you ever watch that documentary?
Yeah, I did.
What?
Oh yeah,
I know the one.
Oh, it's the best ending to a movie ever.
I think you've told me about this before.
I use the word documentary loosely because he was a failed actor and he's a fucking idiot. Was it Grizzly Man or something like that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen it.
It's always, anyways. By the end, you're like, God, I wish these fucking bears would eat him. And then the last scene, they pause it and they point to a little spot in the background. And like 15 minutes later, he and his girlfriend were killed by bears. You're like, yes, best ending to a movie ever.
Excellent.
It is great. Trust me, you're confused right now, but I'm telling you, if you get through the movie, you'll want him dead.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it happens.
I guess I will be watching it tomorrow while I'm supposed to be working.
You should definitely watch it. But anyways, so I ended up having a cage for that fucking goose, and people would walk by while I'm cleaning the tortoise yard. They go, "Oh, that poor bird." I'm like, "Fuck off, people." There's nothing poor about that bird. But yes, I do miss stuff. I miss a lot of that stuff. But man, teachers here make too much money.
Yeah, we do.
And I get the summer off. I'm not outside during the summer.
Yeah, we do.
So
I would like the
2.5. 2.5.
I need to get one of those jobs at a
Stop
zoo where everything is
bragging.
inside of a building.
You don't know how bad I need sleep right now. Like I'm sitting here doing schoolwork and we have 2.5 days left.
No, my wife is doing that last night. She's a high school teacher. Her last day is tomorrow.
My last day is Friday. Yeah.
And I just stay away from her. Like I know my parents were high school teachers too. And I just remember like that last week of school, and I'm a professor, so I've got it during finals week, but like you get to the last 96 hours, feels like a month and a half, because that's when everybody's tweaking and losing their crap and extra credit. And you want to just I'm not, this isn't therapy, so I'm going to shut up, but I know
this afternoon, he always gets home before we do because he gets out before us. And normally he's like stretched out on the couch or he's like in the bathroom or something like that. But today,
not normally in the bath. That's a weird way.
Sometimes you are, but
hanging out in the
you're
bathroom.
having your YouTube time. Okay,
it is YouTube.
You're having your YouTube time. Our listeners know what that means.
Yeah.
But he was in the bed, and I'm like, so I guess we're not going to go to the library today. And of course, then
I got home to change out of work clothes, and the bed was there. It looked comfy.
Mm-hmm.
So I laid down.
So then I got home and did the same thing. And our 11-year-old takes the dogs out to feed and water them because that's her chore. And then she goes, "I'm going to close your door." Yeah, that was all she wrote after that. Like we both fell asleep.
Yep.
And she's like fending for herself, scavenging in the kitchen for food. Like she knows what it's like to be a two teacher parent household.
So
Lord.
I think it's funny when I talk about like college. I've have kids that plan on going to college, but I've had I hate when I get like smart kids who are lazy. I try to always tell them all the time, like, that's not going to work when you get to college. And I also tell my kids all the time, if you plan on going to college, you need to understand something. Your college professors don't have to care about you. Like you paid to be there. They got the money. They're not going to hunt you down to turn in this one thing so you can try to get out of here and graduate. Like I need you to figure out that shit now before you get to college, when they don't care, because you're one of however thousands of many kids.
No, but I have had some college professors who seemed to forget the fact that I'm the one paying to be there, not the other way around.
It doesn't matter. You're not a real person.
Yeah. Apparently.
I got kicked out of classes multiple times in college. You know you can do that?
You really?
Oh yeah. Same professor. And he still liked me. I don't know.
He absolutely loved
He
you,
liked
and
me,
you were
but he kicked
such
me
a
out
shit.
so many times.
I've never been kicked out.
He kicked me out for wearing a hat.
Like he would just like look at him and just like point to the door. Like there wasn't even verbal at like towards the end of the semester.
It's
He
great.
would just like point to the door, and James knew to get up and leave.
No.
Still passed his class. We're good.
Oh my God.
Anyways.
But Liberty's a little different though, because we're a small school, so we only have 2,500 kids. So I get
you
to
have
really
less
know
kids than my
kids.
high school.
I was just about to say the high schools here are bigger than that.
Yeah, no.
That's-
So I like I stalk them down if they miss my class. I'm that guy. We have Slack, that messaging service, and I'll message them like, "Yo, where the hell are you?" And then they come up.
Because you can cuss at college kids.
Yeah, and I never cuss at them at all.
Of course not.
Say
I never
that.
cussed at my high school kids either.
Mhm.
Not when there's other adults around.
I can be motivating. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh, all right. So one thing I wanted to ask you.
Yep.
As a reptile person and a crawfish person, it's very weird. 'Cause as a reptile person, when I worked at the zoo, especially in fucking Louisiana, everyone wants to eat your animals, and they're going to tell you exactly how they would cook them. But whereas a crawfish person, we all eat like that's it's a known food source. So like it's got to be a weird thing when you're like, I study this, and then everyone wants to tell you about how much they like eating them.
But how often do they eat them up where you are?
Nowhere near what they do down where you're at. But this is my like dirty secret, and I'm not just saying this. This is honest to God's truth. My favorite food on planet Earth's Cajun food. So when I come down that way, like andouille sausage and etouffee and gumbo and all that stuff.
Let me tell
it's
you,
my absolute favorite. So I've eaten literally thousands of crayfish. And,
I hate Louisiana. I hate Louisiana. I have driven through that. My family's from Florida.
How can you hate Louisiana? Florida's way worse.
I've driven through. Oh, I didn't say I liked Florida.
Oh, okay, just make sure.
No, I didn't say I liked Florida. I like visiting Florida. I don't want to live there.
That's like the number one state I would never live in.
But I don't like Louisiana. But one thing that they have done very, very well, they got everybody beat on the food.
I miss the food.
They do it. They do it so well. So good.
Well, it's really annoying when you go like here and they're like, "This is Cajun food." No, it's not. Stop that. And you'll eat it. And like
it's different.
It's not Cajun.
It's
food.
not the same.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. It's like going to a Tex-Mex restaurant and being like, I love authentic Mexican food.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't found a good place around here that I like yet.
You got to go to that taco truck I told you about. It is literally right there by the school.
You had messaged me when I only had like 10 minutes left on my break, so I couldn't go.
It's helpful if you know Spanish, but you don't have to.
Just point at a number.
Oh, that's all I do when I go into the gas station to get tacos.
good.
Like the sweet lady there knows me now because I go like once a week and I just point to what I want and hold up how many I want.
You will
That's
have
it.
dreams about the barbacoa.
I don't even know what I'm eating half the time. I think it's chicken. I think it's pork. I don't actually know,
Yeah, no.
but it's good.
But they used to my thing as a zookeeper. I'd always get like, especially because I had alligator snapping turtles. I'd get told all the time about people wanting to eat them.
I actually have been, people eat a lot of turtles up here, but the thing about the turtles is I love the turtles. Snapping turtles are my favorite turtle on planet Earth. And I've read the papers and everything about bioaccumulation, magnification. Like you eat a 30-year-old snapping turtle up here. They call the Upper Ohio Valley where I live the Chemical Valley. And the EPA will do that thing where they can say you can eat this much turtle in a year. And
That always worries me.
yeah, it came out to like 12 grams, which is not even a mouthful.
You're selling drugs at that point.
That are like they're catching 2 or 3 snappers in a day, and then it's their annual dosing of the family of mercury with the turtle soup. So, like,
Jeez.
You get your sliver of turtle. You get your sliver of turtle.
So do you like
no,
the
I
common
don't do that.
snapper?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm an alligator snapper girl.
Snapper's awesome, but common snappers. I have one that I've had since 1999. I got her. I actually bought her at a food market in Pittsburgh where they were selling them as farm raised snapping turtles so that you could get them without the chemicals. And I thought, well, crap, you're coming home with me. And I've had her ever since. And now she's part of the Zeus Life program. So
That's so
Now
fabulous.
Zach's like, if times ever get rough, I've got this mercury free turtle.
there you go.
I've never seen turtles sold at a food market.
Go to Asian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, go to an Asian food market.
I have. I shop at H Mart. I've never seen them sell turtles.
That's why like every turtle in Asia is endangered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they eat them all, and then they come here and they get all of ours and eat all of them.
Surprise me. I've never. Unless maybe I just haven't paid attention.
You go down the turtle aisle.
Maybe I'm just not paying attention.
Well, so and then this may be different from what you've seen or what you saw or how they do it in Pittsburgh, but I know like some of the Asian markets that I've seen, it's kind of like when you go pick out your lobster.
Yeah,
you would go pick out your turtle, and then like they would take care of it in the back for you. Even
yeah, they like.
Yep,
I see the
that's exactly what it was. They had one. And it was like $2 a pound, and it wasn't even a pound. And I was like, well, you're not getting eaten today. So I just bought it, and it became my pet. And then
were they confused when you didn't want them to cut it up for you?
Yeah, I just grabbed it and I like pointed to a bag, and they put it in a brown paper bag. Now I will say one thing: walking around with a freaking snapping turtle in a brown paper bag that's not dead. That's not wise. It got out of the bag almost instantly.
Tell me how that worked out.
Yeah, that was interesting. It's in a place called the Strip District in Pittsburgh. But they've stopped doing that. But they did it. This was in '99. That's how old the turtle is. But yeah, no, we named her Guinevere. She's above me right now in the room above me. So anyway.
Will McCready said they have a place a couple of miles from him that sells them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Darren Watson says gas station tacos. I don't know if he means that negative or not, because in Texas, gas station tacos are good.
I mean, it
depends on the gas station.
But it's like when I tell people in Louisiana,
and you might be getting a little something extra with it that you weren't counting on, but it might be worth it.
When I get in line and no one else in line can speak English because they're all construction workers,
gonna be good.
or I'm like, look, I'm cool.
Well, it's like I tell folks,
I smile and wave, and they're nice to me.
In Louisiana, the best food is at gas stations.
Oh, without a doubt.
Asmer and I, we always go looking for, of course, I mean, he's foreign anyway, so he just kind of blends in wherever
Darren
we
said
go.
He opened a bin at an Asian market and it was full of frogs.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Anyways, let's get to our question.
Sure.
This question came from you. I had you give me a question, and we got a lot of responses, and it'll be very interesting because I had some things that I want to talk about with it. But the question is, how important is enrichment in snake enclosures, and what types of enrichment could you give a snake? And of course, everyone that replied kind of is on the side of yes. So we'll go through these, and then we'll discuss it, and we'll talk about how much of a horrible person I am because I don't give my snake shit. Melissa said, I put sticks and rocks in with mine. My arboreal animals all have fake plants as well. That's not bad. Drew, so this is Drew at the Learning Zoo. So he has a small private zoo north of Houston. He's a friend of ours. I believe it definitely improves the quality of life and has a huge potential to improve their physical health as well as their responses to stressors. Lots of possibilities with scent trails, puzzle feeders, bedding from prey species, and novel climbing or hiding opportunities are all easy and really interesting to watch them use. Which I agree, and especially in his situation, he's using for a zoo. So you're not going to throw him in a tub in a zoo and go, "Hey, look at this snake in a tub." Cynthia said, I think it depends on the snake, which I agree. She said, I agree with part of this. A ball python doesn't necessarily need or use enrichment items the same way that a rat snake might. Perfectly comfortable and confident in keeping my ball pythons on simple rack enclosures, but my bull snake has a far larger enclosure with large natural hides, deeper substrate, and plants. I'm sure he could benefit from additional enrichment of some sort, seeing as he's extremely active each morning and very attentive to what's going on around him.
So you have a Louisiana pine snake.
I do.
And one night you came through and you were telling me, hey, I fed him different tonight. And you had taken a smaller food source.
Every now and then I'll feed him like a handful of things.
But you like put them randomly around. So he had to like go find them because you feed frozen thawed.
Yeah, because they're nest raiders.
Right. And so you like set it up so he had to go in and like raid the nest to eat everything.
I also one night for my little guy, for the smaller pine snake, just put a bunch of pinkies in a bowl and I just ate them out of the bowl.
That's hilarious.
Although Zach has false water cobras and they're kind of the same thing. They'll eat off of a plate.
Oh, how funny.
My hognose does. He won't eat off of tongs. It scares him if you try to tong feed him. He's not brave, but yeah, he eats off plate.
Like falsies or like any of the dry mark on stuff are known for just like go to the Asian market and fucking just pick up anything and feed it to them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which I'm sure you've done that with those guys. You've probably tried frog legs and fish and rodents.
No, I have had false water cobras try to eat the feeding tongs in my office because there was residual rat stank on them or something. And they like chewed on them, then stopped and looked, and then looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, and then slithered away. So
Sounds like my king snakes.
Yeah.
There's some that, well, the pine snakes like that. There's some that are I always shit on ball pythons, but they're fucking boring, and they don't do that. Ball pythons just like they're fucking lump, but something like that, like the pine snakes or active hunters, you can see like when you go to feed them, they're looking for stuff. So like when I open my pine snake bin, if I'm like, I'll throw food in there, and if he doesn't get it, I have to freeze, because if I move, he's coming at me. Like without food, he's fine. He's a puppy dog, but he'll come out and like, so I have to freeze until he finally finds the food and he's not paying attention to me, and then I can close the drawer. His feed response is insane.
That's like the other day I went to take my Mexican black king snake out because Lily and Alana were here, and Lily gave it to me. So I was like, look how much she's grown. And he was like, you better be careful just reaching on in there like that, because I just scooped up her little toilet paper tube that she likes to hang out in and dumped her out in my hand.
You first shoved your finger in the toilet paper tube. I'm like, that's probably not a great.
Her head was on the other side. It was fine.
They can turn around quick.
But she's very aggressive because he feeds her.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't feed any of my stuff.
She doesn't eat off the tongs. I have to throw food in there. But like if I open it to put food in there,
she like spazzes out, and yeah, it's hilarious. I'm like, she's never once done that with me
because you're not feeding her. You're opening her at a different time.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm only ever opening it when I have food. Will McReady, who's in the chat, said test their problem solving skills, and then he posted a picture of a hamster and a hamster ball. That could be interesting. But going through mostly basically the same thing, talking about the same kind of thing, and I agree with a lot of it. The different types of enrichment, I think, depends on the animals, but I know y'all are doing a lot more up there because you're actually studying, I'm assuming behavior and everything with them as well. I'm a horrible person, as the general public would say, because I use a rack system and I don't put anything in them. I know I could, I just don't. But I do think that one thing I saw that popped up over and over that it does help is like for certain things, muscle tone is definitely something. If they have things to climb and move around, that could help. My problem, and Zach, you can chime in on this one, is when people say it helps them basically emotionally, or feel like the better quality of life. Because, and then their argument will be because in the wild they're doing all this stuff. But my argument is in the wild they're doing all this stuff to find food, to find a mate, to find water, to find a safe place to live. We can't assume they're climbing a tree because it looked fun. Like, I understand rat snakes can basically climb. I mean, I know they can climb a straight wall, but we can't say they're doing it because they went, this looks fun. So I guess my argument there is, can we truly say it's a better quality of life because it's still in a box, still in whatever box you have it in? Is it a better quality of life because they can climb over this rock versus climb across a smooth surface? And so I guess, Zach, what is your opinion on that?
My opinion on it is that people oversimplify what enrichment is. I think that we have a tendency to apply mammalian enrichment strategies to snakes and things that we think the snake needs. And I think that way too often people, and then there's a reason why I chose snakes, because there's really no debate as to whether lizards need it or turtles need it. Very few people keep the Ritter slider on newspaper. Like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to ask the question for snakes. But with snakes, and the other thing is that the two is a very polarizing issue, and there are definitely camps, and the camps don't want to play with each other. They just want to rip each other to shreds. And that's also why I thought it would be fun to, bring up that question. But what my perspective on it is, I think that it will help them. Do I think that the snakes are like happy and full of glee because they got to climb a tree and then work on a puzzle feeder? No. Do I think they have brain chemicals and enzymes and amino acids firing in their brain that they didn't have before that lower stress hormones that then make them feel okay when they have that rush of, okay, there's a mouse in here, there's a mouse in here, there's a mouse in here, I found it. Yes, I think that is that's beneficial. And I think that enrichment, if you're going from a purely biological perspective, a scientific academic perspective, the reason why it's an important thing if it's done properly is that you're going to be limiting stress. So we talk in the zoo world all the time about species appropriate behaviors, which is basically like what an animal should do. The thing that drives me absolutely insane when it comes to this enrichment discussion is that there's this kind of hypothetical general snake out there that everybody thinks every snake fits. And that's not how this works. A hognose snake is a completely different animal than a king snake, which is a completely different animal than a boa constrictor, which is a completely different animal than a ball python, which is different from a sand boa, which is different from a false water cobra. So I think that when it comes to this enrichment deal with snakes, it's important for people to kind of like do a little deep dive on the biology and the natural history of the animal, and then try to do things that are those species appropriate behaviors and replicate those. So like, I know you keep sand boas. Yeah. If you let sand boas burrow, that's a species appropriate behavior. So you are enriching their lives by keeping them in aspen. Like, that's the way it works. But if you keep a false water cobra on aspen, that's not really, I mean, it's a substrate. It's no different than keeping them on cypress mulch or pine or whatever, because they're slithering over top of it. They're not going down, into it. And that's where racks are the redheaded stepchild of herpetoculture, and anybody that keeps their animals in racks surely is going straight to the bowels of hell. And there's nothing that good could ever come out of a rack. If you have a fossorial snake that lives underground and you're giving it substrate, you're checking the box of enrichment for that. Now, those snakes do bask, and it's real hard to get a light in a rack. We're actually working on that upstairs and figured out how to provide basking spots in a tub, which has been really kind of interesting to watch how snakes react to that. But so you're not getting all the species appropriate behaviors, but you're getting kind of the main one. So then that becomes another fun question, which is like, is that good enough? Is that not good enough? And then the thing about racks, whether people like it or not, if we can call them a necessary evil, you have to have them. Like, they're not going away. So my whole take on it is, if they're not going away, why don't we figure out how to make them better than just, put a hex on everybody that says they're using them? Because dirty little secret, I have racks.
Going to hell.
I know, but I also have PVC enclosures. So, I use them all. And during a snake's lifespan with me, it's going to grow up and be raised initially in a rack. It's the best, to me, it's the best strategy. Can you raise them in an exo or an aquarium? Sure, I've done it. Right here is a little hognose snake that's lived in that little exo his entire life. But he grew slower than all the hognose snakes that we raised in tubs. So, so when you take all the noise out and you just kind of look at it, that's what I like to do. And like another thing with enrichment, so if you thaw out mice, at the end of the day, you've got that kind of gross, tepid mouse tea, as I like to call it. If you take that and you put a sponge in it or a paper towel and you kind of dribble it and make a trail over top of newspaper or over top of aspen or pine, you've just given that snake something that's going to keep it mentally engaged for a real long time. That's enrichment. You don't have to go and make a bioactive enclosure and plant ficus trees and everything. You can, like, should you do that? Sure. Or could you do that? Yes. But there's lots of ways to add enrichment to your husbandry protocols. So,
and that's what I agreed with some of these people that were talking about. It depends on the snake.
Yes.
I always argue I think for sand boas, it's a great way to keep them. They like to burrow. And yes, would they bask if they had a light? 100%. I mean, they live out in the desert. There's a sun. They would definitely bask. But is it 100% necessary? Not for keeping them, and not for keeping 30 of them. I can't do 30 cages for sand boas, especially, you get 40, 50 babies at a time. I'm not going to have 40 or 50 baby cages. just doesn't make sense. Like my Louisiana pine snakes, they live in a burrow. The reason we can't find them in the wild is they live underground 99% of the time.
100%.
So a tub is underground. It's the same thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
But
And in another life, I would have been like an animal behaviorist. It's actually one of my favorite topics to talk about, whether it's mammals or reptiles. Now, I will straight up say that my understanding of animal behavior in mammals definitely surpasses my understanding of animal behavior in reptiles, partly because I'm still fairly new to the hobby. I've only been in this for a few years.
That's most people. I mean, we're also mammals. It's easier for us to have an idea.
And also too, I mean, just based off of the amount of information that's out there, we really don't. I mean, people have been keeping reptiles for a very long time, but we're only just recently beginning to understand, you know, how lizards and snakes and tortoises and whatnot, you know, how their behavior and moving towards, you know, talking about more enrichment for animals. So I agree with everything that you said. You know, I keep a lot of arboreal species, and the enrichment that I provide for my carpet pythons and my rat snakes is not going to be the same enrichment that I'm providing for my hognose or my bull snake, because they live in pretty different environments from one another. So,
well, like if I had a green tree python or emerald tree boa, I'd feel bad leaving that in a rack. Their body's not made to lay flat on a surface.
Oh, my rat snake would lose her freaking mind living in a rack.
Yeah.
Like she never, if she is on the ground level of her enclosure, it's because she's ready to eat or she's looking for some water. Otherwise, she is, in fact, I'm at the point where I need to start upgrading her because she likes to hang out along the lip of the enclosure, except she's grown. She's too big. So she
falls off.
She keeps falling off. And I work in my reptile room is also my office. So I'll be sitting there working and I'll just hear this thump. And I look over and there she is.
Our bearded dragon in our classroom, her tank is right next to my small group table because I teach third grade. So I pull kids to work with me on individual activities, and she'll be up on her rock and all of a sudden we'll hear thud. And it's her paws like scratching to get out of the tank. And so I'll take her out and she'll sit on the table with us, and then she's perfectly content to sit on the table. And then when we're done, I'll put her back. But like, it's only certain kids when they come to the table, like she has to be at the table with them. It's so bizarre. Snakes don't do that. Snakes don't. I don't think snakes interact with people the same way that lizards. It's like you said, enrichment for lizards, turtles, things like that are different from enrichment with snakes.
But we do have snakes that do that though here. So that's why the false water cobras are my favorite. Absolutely. And and people are going to think I'm crazy, but I got the data and I'm writing a paper, and when it gets published, everyone can read it.
And he's a doctor.
I'm very excited about that.
People tweak. So I have, they're literally right there. The big
Dr. Zac said so.
Yeah, are in my office, and I was a field biologist and I took animal behavior classes, so I was taught how to observe things, document, blah blah blah. And I noticed that one of my big female breeders, who's lived her entire life in this room, I would walk in the room and she would have this very stylized behavior where she would come out. She'd stick her head out and then do a real long tongue flick. Anybody walks in the room, they're very visual falsies. They can, anything moves, they're on it. They're just like a dry market. But I noticed like we got this long tongue flick. And what she would do is she'd stick her head out, long tongue flick. And then if I came and sat in my chair, she'd get out and start cruising. And then it was creepy because I'm sitting here and I'm facing the snakes and I would feel like I was being watched. And I would look up and this female's like, boom, just staring at me. I'm like, okay, something's going on. And she had absolutely made a total association that what I think it was, do I think she looked at it and was like, there's Zach, happy day. No, I do not think that the snake did that at all.
But her loves you. Her loves you so much.
Your snake needs you to boop its snoot.
Exactly. No. What I think happened is I walk in, I have a very unique chemical signature to her. She picks up that odor, and they're so damn smart that she knows this odor means that the next odor's coming, which are the rats.
That weird monkey brings me food.
Yeah, that food monkey, like Mike's monitor guy says all the time, he's bringing me, like, the rodents are coming. And so that's all well and good. But what was kind of interesting is about 2 years ago, I started letting them just during the summertime when no one's in the building. If I did this during the semester, it'd be mayhem. But I would just let her, she's so huge, she's an 8-foot snake, that I would just let her go around my office and then up and down the hallway because I wanted her to have as much room as possible. And she was doing this crazy thing where I would like go into the lab that's on this side of this wall. She has free reign. And next thing you know, here comes Gaia into the room. And then she's like underneath the table. And then I come back into my office. And about 10 minutes later, here comes Gaia back into the office. And I was like, what the hell is happening? It was like Nagini with Voldemort. I was like, what?
What I heard is Zac Loughman allows venomous snakes to roam his college. Yeah. That's what I just heard.
But she only did it. She did that before she laid eggs. After she's laid eggs, that behavior's gone away. But I had
a boa that became a bitch after she had her first litter.
Yeah. So really? I don't know what happened with that, but do I think she's following me because she loves me? Absolutely not. Do I think that there could have been a positive association? Like wherever he goes, there's opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm going to explore and see what that opportunity is today. Sure. And I think that that's where snakes get the short end of the stick. Also, there are over 2,500 species of snake, and I will say this till I die, and every single one of them evolved differently from every other one. So falsies could do this, but a pastel yellow belly ball python is going to be a paperweight on my desk.
Yes.
100%.
So,
I think a lot of people too, there's this notion in the reptile community in general that reptiles are not smart. And granted, that may be true for some of them. I'm convinced that crested geckos are only sharing one brain cell with the entire species.
Yeah, their fucking tail falls off and doesn't grow back. They don't make sense.
It's not that reptiles are stupid. They're just not. They're not dogs. They're not cats. They're not birds. They're not people. They don't have the same kind of intelligence that we do, or that a lot of people are used to working with.
With that said, I would say if you're talking croc monitor or something like a large monitor, that's a very intelligent animal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an animal that's thinking, problem solving, and it may be smarter than some people's dog. Like that is they know what's going on. But if you're asking me about my bearded dragon, yeah, probably not gonna be the head of the class.
See, and I don't necessarily know. I don't necessarily know about that. I mean, I don't keep bearded dragons, but I feel like a lot of people, they get these setups, and I am not bashing simple setups at all, by the way. So I don't want it to come off like that, but you see this a lot whenever, especially in husbandry groups, you see people who they basically give their reptiles like their bare minimum, and they're like, this is what they need to survive. Well, surviving is great. I mean, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of like a human child, they need, a roof over their head, they need food and water to survive, but that doesn't mean that animal is necessarily thriving.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that though, because with bearded dragons, I often see the opposite. I see where there's so much stuff given to the bearded dragon, and often it's almost overstimulated in the tank.
But are we talking like their natural environment?
Well, they
they
naturally have hammocks.
Are we talking about the Barbie beds and the Christmas decorations?
Australia's full of natural hammocks,
with the fireplaces.
Lizard hammocks.
I can't put Christmas decorations on my bearded tank in my classroom. She's actually the only tank that doesn't get decorated because she gets highly aggressive at the stickers on the outside of her tank. Yeah. So everybody else has a cute little stocking with their name on it, because I teach babies in elementary school, and they have ornaments that hang on our classroom.
The bearded dragon doesn't get a damn thing.
And we pretend she's Jewish. It's all good.
There you go.
I just wonder, if more people, and I realize that I'm asking a lot here, but if more people, studied the animals that they're keeping, if they actually studied how those animals are in the wild, what their natural environment looks like, and provide them some of the things that they actually experience, that they would interact with in the wild, how different that animal might react with them.
They act completely different. So like 2 points to that. We did one of my master's students who just graduated 2-3 weeks ago, and her paper's been published, so you can go find this one. She did target training with false water cobras. So we we had multiple clutches of falsies. We randomly chose, like, I think it was 8 to 10 from each clutch. And then she target trained them the way you would target train a cat in a zoo. So ball on stick, present target, snake comes, touches it, is rewarded, blah, blah, blah. And she worked with Lori Torini, who does this with carpet pythons and everything. Cause I was like, I've got some experience. Lori's the master. We'll have you.
We've had Lori on before. Yeah.
So, but what was crazy is Michelle, in her thesis defense, she flat out said, like, the water cobras drive me crazy. Because what was very interesting about the water cobras is they learned the targeting very quickly. And what she tried to do, this is zoo stuff, is then shift it using the target from the tub into a holding box. So it was like the snake's choice. And what's very interesting is when we went to the second behavior, the falsies were viewing getting out of their cage and having fun time, explore time as the reward. And they actually wanted to do that more than eat. So then it ends up being a problem because you can't get them to come to the target or do what you want, because to them, the reward is I get to explore. And one of the things Michelle did is she made, we got this like tent that you get for rabbits or dogs or something. It's like a mesh tent, and threw just a bunch of cardboard tubes and egg crates and plastic tubs and sphagnum moss. And the snakes would literally, they would do the target because they knew they were going to that. And then once they got into that, we couldn't get them to do anything because that's what they wanted to do, was use their brains and explore. And that to me was like really telling, because the snake wanted to use its brain. So you hear all the time that snakes are dumb, snakes are instinctual. We don't need to do that. I think that we discredit these animals a lot, but I'm not going to go the hippy dippy way. That's the problem, is that you say that, and then the next thing you know, we're booping snoots and we got, monocles and all that crap.
And it loves me.
Because these are predators. Predators have to outthink their prey. You can't be a dumb predator and not go extinct. It doesn't work. So, but it's the species appropriate behavior. So the thing with ball pythons and like blood pythons, I have a lot of short tail pythons. That's the python I like for some reason. They're ambush predators. They sit on the forest floor, they get on a game trail, and they don't move. And I think we're mammals, we're active, we're up, we're engaging, we're moving around all the time. We see an animal that's sitting on the ground in a coil next to a trail, and we apply to it, well, that's derpy and dumb. In reality, there's an awful lot going on in that snake's mind as a predator, but because it doesn't move, we assume that it's dumb. And with ball pythons, this is my ball python speech. So we haven't published this paper yet, and I so badly want to get like 2 weeks to write this paper and watch everybody's head explode. But we did, one of my other graduate students, now it's a small sample size. It's 4 ball pythons, so it's not that many, but they're all from different lineages. We tried to make up for the fact we didn't have that many animals. And we had T25 animal plastic enclosures, the 6 foot long by 3 foot deep by 18-inch tall enclosures. And we had them build us dividers. And we had right in the middle a big open port. And we had half the enclosure was newspaper, a hide, a water bowl. And then the other half of the enclosure was mulch, a hide, water bowl, cork tubes, and a vertical hide. Okay. And we put video cameras on these enclosures and basically put the snakes in, and we video recorded them for 2 months, 3 months. And I had a student watch every single second and do ethograms and figure out how are they using it. All the ball pythons, every single one of them went to the enriched side of the enclosure. And what was really interesting is at night, during the day, they were rocks. They didn't do anything. Okay. About an hour and a half after the lights went out, they were zooming around using the entire enclosure. About 60 to 70% of the time, if they had the opportunity to move around their enclosure, they did. And what was really interesting is that all of them, the hide they preferred was the vertical hide. So they weren't down, underground. They were literally up in this hide that was hanging off the enclosure top. And if you know anything about ball python natural history, and Travis Wyman and I have talked about this because people get manuscripts and they over interpret the results, but they don't just live in termite mounds. sorry guys, that's not true. They come out an hour after dark and they will patrol and hunt a little bit. They don't do it all the time, but they do it. And they are absolutely found in, hollows that are up. So our results showed that if given a choice, they'd go to the enriched side. So then you look at it and go, well, but does it matter? Because obviously we have thousands of ball pythons being produced on newspaper with a hide. And my only thing is, if you're a breeder, stress is going to impact your output. And if your animals are not stressed and they're chilled and happy, you might get a little bit more output. So do I think you need to keep all your ball pythons that way? No. If you have one or two, though, and you're a pet keeper, why the hell not keep it that way? But a breeder's not a pet keeper. And this is the thing that people don't understand. And if we don't have breeders that have the ARS racks and everything else, the pet keeper doesn't have the ball python. And I brought this up in my class before, and the students, I'm not really even mad with their response. They were like, but it's like a puppy mill. I was like, well,
because at that point, because you're thinking mammalian stuff, like when dogs, they need space, they need area to run. Their brain works different. And keeping them inside of a small crate where they shit on themselves, that's bad.
Yeah,
I think
it's an apple to oranges situation.
Oh, and I think we've assigned so many anthropomorphic behaviors to animals, especially reptiles, that it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, assigning those behaviors to animals has helped people, get over their fear of snakes, especially. But also it kind of prevents people from having the respect for those animals that they need to, and for caring for them in the way that is best for that animal. We have a tendency to care for animals in what we presume is best for them and not what is actually best for them. That snake does not give two shits if it went to Petco with you or to Walmart. It does not give a shit. Leave it in your fucking
I would argue. I would say it does, in the fact that that's added stress that it would not.
Yes, in the sense that it definitely doesn't want to be there.
It doesn't care in a positive way. It very much cares.
I watched
it doesn't have FOMO.
I watched a retic get put on probably 3,000 people's shoulders this weekend. And all I could think was, well, two things I think. That's a great way to get your animal sick and get shit. And then I was like, there's no way that snake wants to be doing that.
No.
When I do my classes, there are a couple of snakes that I will let people do, like the 2-finger, touching the back of them. But after a certain amount of time, like that's it, we're done. Like they're going back in the tub. And then there's others that I'm like, I'm going to show them to you, but you're not going to get to touch them. Because
I had a big 7-foot boa that let me know that it was done. I took it to a 4-H thing. It was an all-day event. I had several classes. Somewhere around the last one, I'm holding, and I always keep the head far away from all the kids.
Yeah.
So I had the head, and they'd come up and they'd put 2 fingers in the back and touch it. And I was just like, ow, shit. And I realized it just like its head was next to my elbow, and I reached around, it bit, and then let go. And I was like, all right, she's done.
Little like hello, the tap on the shoulder.
Yeah, because it wasn't an aggressive bite, and it wasn't a food bite, but it was I'm fucking done now bite.
Yeah. No, I've had snakes do that doing education programs.
Yep. My rat snake is she's generally super chill, but she absolutely will rattle her tail in my hands when she doesn't strike. She's never struck at me, never tried to bite me. But when she's done, she will rattle her tail, and I'm like, okay, we're good. Like, I respect that.
So I think one of the big issues that stems from like
before you get too go ahead.
Well, we live in extremes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have become a culture of extremes. It either has to be this or that. So when it comes to the behavior of these animals, they either have to be completely stupid, or they love me and they're personable and they know me and we have a relationship. They can't be somewhere in the middle where, all right, well, some are smarter than others. Right. I think we'd all agree that the falsie is probably smarter than the ball python, right? So it doesn't mean the ball python is dumb as much as I shit on them, just because, again, I hate ball python people. But it's not, like you said, it's not an active hunter. It doesn't have to know how to hunt down, track things, it doesn't have to do all that. When you watch something like an indigo, like indigos are super intelligent because they have to go find food, and they cover large amounts of ground on a regular basis to do it. Or like my sand boa. sits underneath the bedding with its eyes above the bedding until
No.
food shows up.
I have lots of respect for you with the sand boas. So there you go. Because my son was like, I want a snake. It's like, anything you want, bud. Sand boas. Sand boas kicked my ass. I couldn't get the damn things to eat. I couldn't get them to shed. I mean, I'm keeping like these obscure, weird South American things, and these stupid Kenyan sand boas are just like dying. Slowly dying. I'm like, I don't understand what the hell's going on here. And then we ended up getting rid of all of them. So that's actually my devil snake.
That's sad. I always thought those are super easy to keep.
I know they are super easy to keep. I don't understand what the hell happened.
You know why? It's because you do so much that is not easy to keep that you can't handle the simplistic. It's okay.
You may have overthought the sand boa.
I probably did.
Going back to touch on what you said earlier, you have the difference between the pet people versus the breeder people. You can tell which animals in our house were purchased for pet purposes because they have names.
Yeah.
Versus the ones that were bought for breeding purposes.
There's not many of them left though.
There isn't. There's a handful.
See, and all mine have names, partly because I am a pet
and they know
person.
their name and they come to it. And
yes, they do. No, but I am a pet person completely, but I'm not that pet person. I also name them because I do education, and I find that when something has a name, it is easier for somebody to get past that fear when they have, a cute name to associate it with. Like a lot of my male snakes, I have like an old man name theme going on, the Normans and the Dexters. And, I took out Gerald. Gerald made his debut. He's my juvenile Western hognose. He made his debut this weekend. I pull him out and the whole room broke out and aw, and I'm like, I know, right? But again, I've worked with other animals for, my whole life. And so it in another life, I would have been like a dog trainer or something.
Yeah, but you're also the person that goes, my snake loves to watch TV with me.
No,
that's not a thing.
It doesn't. My snakes move too freaking much. They never would. They won't sit still.
But on my argument with that, I'm not shitting on like the overly pet person, because don't get me wrong, they're taking care of their animal. As long as they're taking care of their animal, I'm great. That's fine. But part of me wants to be like, I need you to know that what you're saying isn't completely true. That's the part where I'm like, I get it. I'm glad you love it.
Yeah.
But can we love it while also understanding the actual animal?
Right. Like I'm like, if this is what makes you feel connected to your animal and makes you happy with your animal, then that's fine. But let's not forget at the end of the day that this is not a domesticated pet. This is still a wild animal and needs to be respected as such. And just because you love your animal and you really, God, I can't stand it when people say boop the snoot. It makes me want to, it makes me feel like I need to take a shower. But that snake,
that makes me want to
find,
that makes me want to have people boop the snoot of my children's python. Just come do it. Come poop its snoot.
I can honestly say I haven't done that to any of my fucking reptiles because one, I think it's weird. To my dogs, yes, I will do that to my dogs all day long. They can't get enough of it.
Well, that's because like if your dogs are like mine, when you tap her on the nose, she automatically licks her nose.
Yeah.
So it's like a response thing. And I'm that person that is just bored enough to sit and do it over and over to see how long she will put up with me before she walks away.
I joke with people that, I tell people all the time, like through, my goal with education is not to make you best friends with these snakes. And then I tell them, I'm like, this is a very one-sided relationship anyway. I want to be their best friend. Mm-hmm. They don't give a shit about whether they are my best friend or not. But that's my way of, connecting with the crowd a little bit more and making them feel more comfortable. But I still make it very clear to them, like these are not domesticated animals and we need to stop pretending that they are.
No, I get you 100%. 100%. And I think that I oftentimes hear people talk about is herpetoculture conservation, and I don't like that conversation because I don't know if it is. But I think that when you do what you do and people go out and talk to a group of people, I think that is when people that have snakes in the private sector are totally in the bubble of conservation because they have such a bad image problem. And the fact that you get out the hognose snake and everybody goes, that's going to translate maybe to one of the Bubba McGurks in the audience next time they see a garter snake. They may not necessarily turn it into garter snake chunks.
I have definitely had, and I've explained this to people, like you're not going to win over everybody. And I don't think your goal should be to win over everybody because it's just not possible. And if that's your goal, you're just going to stress yourself out trying to get there. But I've had several people, in fact, I have a friend and neighbor of mine. At one point she asked me what kind of witchcraft I was using because because I am the only person who could possibly make a snake look cute. She hated snakes. She was terrified of them. 2 weeks ago, she posted a picture of herself moving a decays, picking it up with her bare hands and moving it in her yard. She knew what it was. She
They're
said
all copperheads. You're wrong.
She was like, I was ready to freak out at first. I walked away and then I went back and I picked it up and he was really cute. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. Yeah. But no, it's not a big snake, but I'm like, look at how far you've come. Like at one point, like she would have been that person who was ready to kill that snake. And now she's moving him to another part of her garden. Those 100%. Are the people. Those are the people that we're going after.
Yeah. And another thing that's cool on that front is I've noticed, so like we have 3 educators in the room and we're all dealing with our good friend Gen Z, which is an interesting generation. And at times they make me want to rip my hair out and go live in a cave by myself.
I always tell folks the worst part about being a teacher is I see the future and it's not good.
But on that same token,
look, they're good when they're in my 3rd grade class. Okay.
That when I do my classes for like non-majors, when I first started teaching back in 2006, and I'd put up a picture of a spider or a snake or whatever, about half the class would be like, oh God, no. And now when we do that, being a nerd has suddenly become socially acceptable, which I'm really pissed about, by the way, being in 80s and 90s.
100%.
But anyway, but now I put those animals up and the general response in my classes, which are, full of people from West Virginia. So I'm going to say, but they're kind of like, oh, that's cool. So it's kind of nice to see at least now. Are all of them that way? No, there's definitely people that are like burn it with fire. Yes. And that's okay. But the number of those has decreased dramatically in my observation. And I've been doing snake talks and programs literally since I was 13 and I'm 43. So if I got 30 years of this under my belt. So that's like one of the good things I would say is that there's a little bit more acceptance in the world than there was back in the day. And there's also this kind of attitude where, all right, I'm not completely entrenched in my ways, so convince me. And that's all I want when I'm talking to anybody. I just want them to be open-minded enough to change a bit. So,
well, I think a lot of that stems from people have more opportunities to seeing these things, and so it definitely changes a lot. Look, we all grew up on Steve Irwin, like that changed an entire generation when it came to reptiles. And as much as people want to. It drives me nuts when people badmouth him because I love Steve Irwin to death. But
I love Steve Irwin.
Everything he did, I don't care how crazy you think it was or whatever, changed an entire generation's outlook. And you can kind of see, unfortunately, that kind of stuff isn't on TV anymore. And I worry by that not being on TV and as prevalent, I worry for future generations after that. He's still kind of relevant to folks. Most people still know who the crocodile hunter is. But now you don't get that. Now you don't get that kind of stuff on. You get the eating alive shit and you get we're going backwards in my mind. And so that worries me.
And
but with that,
too.
But with that, we do have, I mean, at least especially in Texas, I mean, I'm not in any of the other state groups, but there are a lot of things that I hate about social media, but we have so many groups now on Facebook they're for any reptile that you could possibly imagine.
But the problem is those groups tend to attract people who are interested in them already.
That's true. But a lot of the groups that we're in, like, for example, Free Snake Relocation Directory, that group attracts mostly people who are absolutely terrified of snakes. And it's an excellent opportunity. Yes, we're there to help relocate snakes. And so we're not there to bash people or anything like that. But we can also take those opportunities to educate those people and open up their minds a little bit more that maybe I don't need to freak out and call somebody to come get this garter snake out of my garden because it's not going to hurt me. And it's not a perfect system, but it's there. And I'm seeing it work. Maybe not necessarily changing a generation the way that, like Steve Irwin.
Well, that's why I think zoos are vitally important. That's why
absolutely.
There's a lot of reasons why I hate PETA, but this is one of the big reasons when they want to badmouth zoos and close down zoos. And I've always said it. I used to teach in inner city school. The only time that kid's going to see a lion is if they go to the zoo. Yep. You can't ask them to care about a lion if they've never seen a lion.
There are species that only still exist because of zoos.
And you can't ask somebody to care about nature unless they've seen it. You can ask them all the time. Guys, you should definitely care about this animal. But until they see it in person and understand what it is in person, for all those kids, it's just a picture in a book. If I show them a picture of a lion, that doesn't mean anything. You flip to the next page, they forgot what they saw. You take them to a zoo and it's right up next to the glass and they're eye to eye with that animal. That's a completely different experience. And
Absolutely.
Same thing, you take them and you show them a big alligator, a big crocodile. Like we went to the crocodile encounter and all those crocodiles you get to get up close to and everything. That changes an outlook. So that's why I think things like zoos and public outreach programs like what you do are vitally important, because you've got to get these animals in front of people.
Yep.
Because if you don't, these people are purely living off of what they've been told. And let's face it, with the animals we like, they're not told the best stories, right?
No. I even show people, some people may not agree with this, but I show people the bites that I get. Not to scare people, but
to show that you didn't die from it.
But to specifically show them it's not a big deal. It's really not. Now, this would obviously be a different story if I was bitten by like a 20-foot reticulated python.
Or that cottonmouth that chases you down because they chase people.
Yes, or that one.
Yeah, okay.
But, just to let people know, like, hey, look, and even in my classes, I tell people, I'm like, listen, I've never been bitten by the snakes that I have today. But it could happen. So if it does, don't worry about it. I got hand sanitizer and paper towels. I'll wipe it off and we'll move along. It's not a big deal. Like
that was always my thing
at
the zoo and the education department. That was always my thing. Like, oh, does it bite? Well, anything with a mouth can bite. Yeah. You bite your food every day when you eat whatever meal it is you're eating. And like, we would just roll with it from there.
Well, again, they're if they're not informed, they don't see it. They're going off of what they've been told. And, to a lot of people, all snakes are poisonous, yes, I said poisonous. It hurt to say it.
I'm having like nightmarish flashbacks to that like weird, what was it, that episode that I shared? Those two like redneck rock and roll looking guys.
Oh, Billy the Exterminator.
Yes,
yeah, he's an idiot.
He was like, it seems that there must be a lot of poisonous snakes in this house. I'm like, I have officially checked out.
Just so you know, meth will do a lot of stuff to you. That's one of them.
Yeah, clearly.
Drugs are bad. Okay.
Drugs are bad. Okay?
Yeah.
But I forget where I was going with that. I got the Billy the Exterminator now. My brain melted.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Billy the Exterminator. But you've got to get past all those misconceptions, and sometimes just seeing the animal can get rid of misconceptions.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I actually had somebody left a comment from this past weekend. She said, I really enjoyed your program today and highly recommend attending these for anyone who loves or hates snakes. It's surprising how one's perspective can change with just a little knowledge. Thank you. That is exactly the goal. Nobody is expecting you to come to the Reptile Expo with me and have 30 snakes in your house and be the crazy snake person in your neighborhood. We are just trying to help you develop a healthy respect for these animals because they were here first. This is their home. They have every right to be on this planet, just like you and
Robert and I did a reptile show this weekend, and it was not a herp show. It was a different one. It was definitely a different clientele than what we're used to. Mm-hmm. It was based on the way that it was publicized. It was what we like to refer to at a reptile show as zoo people. Mm-hmm. They came there because they're basically going to a zoo, which is fine, which is great because those people need that. They need to see this. Mm-hmm. And so, like when I talk about that retic being put on 3,000 people, I'm torn. I do love people being able to interact with these animals, but bring 4 or 5 animals and rotate them.
Rotate them out. Yeah, that's all I
And-
gotta do.
And that's fine. Our buddy Blake made, I'm not gonna say how much he made. He did really well at having people take pictures with his little Nile crocodile, and so that's the little baby Nile crocodile. The people don't get to see a Nile crocodile. Their only idea of a Nile crocodile is it will eat people, which it will. But this like it, I say personalized, but it makes it a little closer to home, and so that kind of stuff is very important. That's one thing I love about reptile expos, is that someone sees a sign that says reptiles and they go, let's go there and see what we can find. Now, granted, with Robert, we're selling racks and cages, and he has some signs, and he has one that says like a Cobra Lover Lane. We got asked. He's had this sign at every show. Never once have been fucking asked. At least 20 times over the weekend. Y'all got cobras? The fuck behind me? What? Nothing behind me says the sign is the only thing. You don't see anything behind me that looks like a cobra. That was the other problem about being at a Zookeepers show and not a reptile buyer show. But
I haven't been to that one.
it was very interesting. But it was a lot of people that may have been their first experience with a turtle.
I should have made him a shirt on Saturday to wear on Sunday that said "Got cobras, me neither," and that would have been
There you
great.
go.
So I when it comes to these debates, like with enrichment for snakes or for anything, when it goes to racks and cages, any of that stuff, again, as we say all the time, we've got to stop thinking in extremes. It cannot be yes or no. None of this stuff
be in the
is
middle.
Yeah, none of this stuff is yes or no.
No.
Right? I mean,
the way I keep is right in the middle. So great example, because initially I came out, it might seem like I'm totally racks, and I do not have a problem with a rack if the rack is being used and you're using the rack in a way where you're promoting the species appropriate behaviors. And my collection at home is a little different than the collection here. They blur a little bit because my house serves as a quarantine for the animals here. And if we have an animal that's not doing well, I totally take it home, because having a sea of 19-year-olds trying to medicate it is a good way to die. So
everybody wants to give it an injection.
Yeah, there you go. So they come home, but I initially had a bunch of rat snakes. I got into Asian rat snakes. I had North American rat snakes. And I started I ran out of PVCs, so I was kind of rotating them where they would spend X amount of months in a tub, and then I would rotate them into the PVC enclosures, because I wanted them to have, like you were talking about with your rat snake. I think rat snakes need to climb. I think corn snakes need to climb. That's a species appropriate behavior for that snake. And I started feeling pretty crappy about the way that I was keeping my rat snakes. I didn't advertise it on social media. I didn't make it my Instagram story. I just was like, you know what? This isn't working for me, and I don't like the way I feel about this. So I gave the snakes away to people that I knew would take really good care of them. But I still had these enclosures. And what I realized was that I really like king snakes, and king snakes, natural history is very different than a rat snake. There's a million papers out there that show that rat snakes and king snakes are ecological equivalents, but kings are more down on the ground and rats are more up top. And I had the caging that I thought was okay for the kings. So I've done this. It's ridiculous, because I got a couple Florida king snakes, and then I was like, "Woo, I like these things. I need."
I love Apalachicola kings.
Yeah. So now I've got this huge Getula collection. I do scent-based enrichment with them. I make sure they have a really complicated substrate in their tubs. It's like pine bedding, peat moss, sphagnum moss. It's there's stuff there. They burrow through it all the time.
Mine love to burrow.
The biggest tubs that I can get. I've got some AR racks coming. People would look at me like I was higher than a kite because I bought ARS racks for $125 Florida king snakes, but that's what I'm doing. And that ARS tub for a king snake, that's every bit as good as a freaking PVC Viv. For them, I mean, it's a huge tub. I can heat it. I can add a little bit of climbing, but I can give them that thick bed of substrate, and I can give them a light. So, that's what we're doing. But that's kind of my strategy when it comes to all this. But it's the middle, because it's still a rack. Like, I just found a snake that I feel is appropriate for a rack. Now, is there somebody out in the ether that thinks it's complete bullshit to keep king snakes in Iraq. I know that they exist. They found me and told me, but I don't care. Like, I did my research, and that's the way that I'm going to do it. And it's all well and good. And the snakes, the other reason why I do this is just, it makes them so much more interesting when you can watch them doing what they do in nature. Like I right before I came up here, I was changing out the substrate in my vivs. I have a wall in my office of PVC enclosures, and I'm going to make it all low-cal Getchula species. Cool. And my Planellus Florida King female that I have, I put like this much substrate, about 2 or 3 inches in the viv that she's living in, and she was on mulch, but I actually put like a mix in there, and it was really interesting because I put her in there, and she freaking swam down into the substrate like one of those worms from Dune, like boom, like, she looked like a damn sand boa going around, underneath the substrate. And there was a guy who did a study on Florida king snakes, and he showed that they use vole burrows, and they will go into loose substrate and actually kind of porpoise up and down through the substrate. So like, I read the paper, it's like full circle as a herp keeper, because I read the paper, I learned that behavior was there, I put the snake in the viv, it does that, and then that's why I keep reptiles, is to see those kind of things. And I don't get that if I have her in the tub, but there's 30 other ones in the garage in tubs. So,
yeah,
so it's kind of a little bit of everything. It's doing the snakes justice. That's all.
My Cali King, I think, is working on being an ambush predator. I was going in to take her out for my class on Saturday, and her ass gets hooked when she comes out. Always. Even if I'm just doing water, the hook is coming with me because she will try to eat anything that moves. And I didn't see her when I was going in, so I thought, she must be in her hide. She was not. She was burrowed beneath the substrate right up against the door. And so when I started to open it, all of a sudden I hear this thump, and I just see her come out of nowhere, and she just hits the glass like she's just ready for food. And yeah, so I guess that's her thing now. But I'm keeping my eye on that substrate a little bit more closely.
Mm-hmm. No, well, that's really cool.
I've got to say because I've got a speckled king, and it's very interesting. You can definitely tell there's more going on in their head than others, because you can see their eyes looking around, like you can see them focusing, like
Mm-hmm.
There's more thought there on what they need to do next versus let me just sit here.
Ophelia will actually follow you around the enclosure, and anyone who comes in the room, she'll sit there and she'll actually follow you around. And who knows, maybe she's waiting for more food. She's a garbage disposal. But even if she just ate a few days ago, she seems just really curious, and she'll sit there and just watch everything.
Imagine king snakes. They have to outsmart other snakes, so they obviously have to be smart. I always tell folks, and Zach said earlier, to be smarter than what you eat. There's a reason cows aren't that intelligent. Grass doesn't run away.
I was gonna say, she literally tried to she bit the side of the enclosure one day because she missed, and she held on and started coiling the door, and I had to
when they get into food mode, the intelligence shuts down.
It shuts down completely. She was a complete savage.
Their brains only work on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And when it thinks it's food, everything else is out the window. You have to wait for it to calm back. That's like I said, when I feed my big Louisiana pine.
Yeah.
When I open it and he smells food, he's no longer the nice, calm Louisiana pine snake I have. He's going to eat whatever moves in front of his face.
She's pretty. At least she's got that going for her.
I do, and I'm gonna have to talk to you later, Zach, about some things. My school is going to allow me to set up a small zoo. Basically, I've got a room behind my desk. It's in my room, but it backs up to the hallway, and it's got 2 big windows. And so we're going to be able to build out those windows from the inside and do cages. And we're going to do a small reptile zoo there. And I plan on starting a club and having kids come after school to clean, feed, and all that kind of stuff.
I'm just going to turn my English classroom into a little zoo because I already got that going for me.
But I need to write up some procedures and protocols. I may hit you up for that because I'm sure you probably have some.
We already have them.
Yeah. So I'm sure y'all have some sort of procedures and protocols in place.
Maybe he could just share his with you and you could tweak them.
Well, that's kind of what I'm planning, because I need to get something to my
Case.
yes, I need to get something to my principal. They've okayed it, but they want to see some procedures and protocols, and I'm like,
don't reinvent the wheel.
yeah. So I may have to get with you on that, but I'm
Sure.
super excited about that for next year, because it gives these kids one. As a club, I can pick and choose who does it, so I can't. It's not going to just be like some.
Yeah.
And you have
Turd.
APA classes next year. You have advanced
I do have
classes
some advanced
next year.
classes but it gets them experience with some animals they wouldn't normally get experience with. I get to go back on some of my zoo background, because I get to go through process of they can learn about enrichment, because they're going to be in cages. They can design them. They can do all that stuff. We can do different things, and so I'm really looking forward to that next year.
You could
What?
You could apply for the grant.
Which grant?
That our education foundation, they give out grants every year.
Yeah, I never apply for grants.
I can totally help you with that.
That's
It's
cool.
not hard.
Apply for the
I did it with the zoo, and they give like we had 9 teachers at my elementary school that got between $800 and $1,100 for like random stuff that they want to do in their classroom. They just filled out the
Awesome.
paperwork and they got it. We have like $5 out of each paycheck that goes to.
But
the
I've
foundation.
thought of a list of some cool reptiles, because that was my other problem. Was like, well, I don't want to bring any of my stuff, because all my stuff has a reason, has a purpose, and I'm not gonna like. As bad as that sounds,
You say that like nothing else has a reason.
no,
man.
but it's like, if I plan on breeding this, I'm not gonna go take it to a school where
I understand that.
I'm taking a $600
My
sand.
Mexican black king snake's never going to my classroom.
But I thought it was some cool thing. Like this weekend, we were at the show, and they have you can get their imports, but you get the like legless lizards, those big European
Those are
legless
cool.
lizards.
Yeah.
I was like, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Those emerald tree skinks, because I've seen a lot of videos where those actually become very personable. Like they'll come out onto your hand, run around, and go back in. Like, and they get used to being fed. And I'm trying to think of things that would be out during the day, because a lot of the stuff I like is going to sit in a corner
My
during
stuff's
the day
nocturnal, yeah.
and do nothing. I'm like, oh man, I got to think of things that people want to see. So I'm like, big corn snake or rat snake would be cool.
One of the things that I got them because I wanted them. Let's just be real. And then they ended up being a fan favorite of all the students is Ackies.
I want
because
Kimberly
they
rocks.
don't stop when you get their husbandry dialed in and you get their tent, like they have to get really freaking hot.
Yeah.
And if you can get them up to like 125 degrees and they can get to that like operating body temperature, they just don't stop moving all damn day. And they will learn.
Ackies have been on his list for a while.
They were
No.
until I saw Kimberly rock monitors.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, just little tiny monitors. I want a little tiny monitor, but I do love Ackies. They're active.
The
and
nice
flexible.
thing about Ackies is they're kind of bulletproof. The only issue that I've experienced with Ackies is like if you have Ackies and you don't have other people messing with the Ackies, they learn who their keeper is. You learn how to be around them. It's all well and good. But one of the interesting things about the collection that I oversee here is that while it's awesome that I got to design it and get it, I now kind of understand what it's like to have a collection that's maintained by lots of people. And the Ackies are fun because you mentioned how your boa was like, yeah, I'm done, and did a little snap.
Yeah.
Ackies will be running around and everybody loves them. And when they decide they don't want to be messed with anymore and they've had it, they turn into little 18-inch crocodiles and they bite things and spin.
Oh.
Yeah.
damn.
And you can tell when it's funny because the noise that a student makes when they're being bitten and spun by an Ackie is similar to the noise I think they would make if they were being bit by a crocodile monitor, because the like shrieks of terror that I've heard have made me like quit what I'm doing and run to the room, and I'm expecting like the water monitor's ripping a hand off and it's just this little 18-inch lizard spinning a pinky. Like I'm like, what the hell? So anyway, but that's the only downside to the Ackies is you don't want to have lots of people. Like if you limit it to 10 kids, that's one thing, but I have over 100 students. So, and they all rotate through all our spaces.
A small amount because it's a small room and like, but I think one thing that's fun, we can breed our own feeders, which would be kind of a cool thing. We could breed dubias and mealworms. And by we, I mean they, because I'm not doing it. But like I said, it'll be really cool. And the other thing was there's a mirror room. Basically, it's my room, the opposite, right next to it, that has the same room. And there's a possibility that teacher may not be coming back next year. Somebody else may be moving in there, so I can maybe talk them into just letting me
have that room too.
Have that room too, and then have
there you go.
reptile zoos.
So what you're saying is I'm going to need to like bake cookies for whoever gets that classroom next year, and
Yeah.
we're going to have to cozy up to them. Okay.
But there's STEM grants out the wazoo
Bribery
that you
works.
can get for that would literally get you $10,000 or $20,000, and you can do a lot with $10,000 to $20,000.
Do a lot with $10,000, right?
Yeah.
I need to start learning how to embezzle some shit.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Robert said, he's going to donate the cages, so this summer we'll go down there and we'll measure it, and we can measure out to fit exactly in that spot, which would be kind of cool.
The problem is you've got to figure out what exactly you want before you do that.
Well, I'm going to make kind of generic cages. There'll be a couple of arboreal cages, a couple of larger cages for larger animals, a couple of smaller ones. I do want to do like a communal thing of the forest scorpions, because you can put a black light on them, and that'll be really cool for kids to walk by and see glowing scorpions in a cage with a black light. So, but I'm excited. That'll be fun. I do miss, like I said, there's things I miss about being a zookeeper. So it's a little slice of being a zookeeper.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about you've gotten stuff for your collection, things that you wanted. Same thing happened when I was a zookeeper. My director once handed me the list of AZA reptiles that were available and that was a mistake. He's like, "What do you want?" Mistake. And I was like, "Oh, let's see." So I ended up with a black-headed python and 2 Madagascan green tree boas.
Those are gorgeous, though.
And they pretty much never went on exhibit. They were in the back. We had nowhere for them. We had no Australian exhibit, and we had nothing for the Madagascar tree boas. Like, they put them in the education building at once, and they're like, "Yeah, this doesn't work." I'm like, "Yep, they're not great for this. Put them back in the back." And so I would just go back in the keeper area. Like, I'd go hold the blackhead just because, like, I can't afford this, but I can play with it here.
When you see those lists, by the way, because I'm on those listservs and the surplus list that AZA has, and you're just like, "Holy Christ!"
Yeah,
it's insane.
Mm-hmm. That's like, you want 6 lace monitors? I'm like, "Holy mother of God!" So yeah.
Look, when I saw Sanzinia on there, I'm like, "Yes, we're getting them." And I think they were like confiscations. I think Texas Wildlife Fishers, I think, confiscated them from someone.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was awesome. Now I still want them, and I can't afford them either. So. But anyways, let's run through some of the things that were on. There's some things that got posted on our group page this week that were interesting.
My phone doesn't want to pull anything up, so I can't really follow.
Travis just posted a video like 5 minutes ago, because I always get alert when he posts stuff, and it was a guy who was driving, and an eagle flew into the passenger window of his car, and just like,
fuck that.
Like, no, like it wasn't a bald eagle, but
doesn't matter.
The guy, like, it just sits there and stares at him, and like this guy like slams on the brakes, and he's like, "The fuck is an eagle doing in my car?" And he's like, "Oh, you're injured." And you see him like barely move to put his car in park, and then like bail out of the car, and he's standing there. He's like, "All right, who do I call to fix this?" Like,
I don't feel like getting attacked by an eagle in my car.
It was insane. It was insane.
Someone else posted the thing for. I need to watch. This looks cool. Prehistoric Planet on Apple. I need to watch Apple TV.
Oh yeah.
We have so much stuff. Oh, sorry.
Because isn't that the one? I think that's the one with David Attenborough.
Yeah. It's supposed to be the best dinosaur documentary ever made.
Really?
I don't have a single thing that's Apple in my house, so I'm trying to figure out how the hell I can see. I've waited 43 years to see this documentary. So
well, and I love anything David Attenborough does.
Yes.
Like I have Planet Earth, but I have the Planet Earth BBC version because I'm not doing Sigourney Weaver. Fuck that shit. I want David Attenborough to make me feel. No, David Attenborough makes me feel smarter when I hear his voice.
No, Sigourney Weaver has a very calming voice.
Plus, it's fitting because his brother was in Jurassic Park, so it's fitting for him to do a dinosaur thing.
But there's a fun thing about David Attenborough. If you ever get the chance to watch the documentaries he did when he was younger in like the 70s and the 80s, they're very, very different because that's what I was raised on.
Yeah.
And he did a series in the 70s called Life. And there's so many animals slowly dying in that documentary. And they talk about how vicious life was. And you like watch it and they're like, I need to end it all now. Like there's and he had like, they just had a complete change of heart in the 90s with him. Because I distinctly remember being like a little kid on my couch watching PBS and just bawling my eyes out because the baby pelicans are getting eaten by the hyenas and the jackals and the lions and the snake. It was just like, But now it's a very, very different vibe. But it's worth seeing the OG Attenborough compared to this new, much more pleasant version.
Yes. Yeah, I love him. That's we end up watching anything David Attenborough like towards this time of year when we have nothing going on in class. Like, all right, guys, just sit there and be quiet, and I'll just watch.
No,
David
I have
Attenborough
an
stuff.
assignment in my zoology class where it's you guys are teachers. It's all right, you screwed up on a test. Here's your gimme points to make up for that one mistake assignment. Yeah. And it's literally go on Netflix, find anything narrated by David Attenborough, and watch 6 of them, and you'll get 80 points back. Like that's literally what the assignment is.
You're automatically smarter when you hear his voice.
Yep. They have to write like a book report. So
I love that your college kids are writing a book report.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, this got posted on our page this week, and this was really sad. It was a roadkill at Eastern Indigo.
Yeah, that
I
was
saw that.
heartaching.
Oh, and there's a big one too. That's painful. They're such a cool snake. I never see. I've got to give you credit for owning falsies. I can't do as much as I'd be like. I'd love to own an indigo. They eat too much and they shit too much. Corn snakes already shit too much for me, and I have them. But like, I would love dry marcon or something big like that. But I just don't want to deal with the amount of feces. And I'm assuming the water cobras are the same because they eat a ton.
What you got to do though is you got to be proactive with your substrate. So like, I put a lot of time into the substrate for the falsies because if you don't, it's going to turn into a crap stew twice a week. So what I do is they make them for rabbits. It's compressed pine pellets.
Oh yeah. And
when those get wet, they kind of disintegrate, but they absorb liquid. And it ends up having the exact same effect as the cat litter that when the cat drops a dump, it just kind of clots it all up so you can just go in and shovel it out.
That's smart.
When I started doing that with the falsies, it became much, much more manageable. But if anybody that keeps dry market or false water cobras on newspaper, you're literally inducing your own personal hell. Like, I don't understand because these things, when they crap, it's like a toddler taking a dump. It's not.
I mean, I learned real quick about not quarantining king snakes on paper towels. I don't know why anybody would keep those snakes on newspapers.
No. But just keeping them on the mulch without the pellets. And I can't claim that. The guy that I look up to with false water cobras is a guy named Kyle Wilson. And he is who I got one of my big breeder females off of way back when I got the first set. And I messaged him relentlessly. And I asked him, what the hell do you do about this crap? And he was like, oh, I actually do compressed wood pellets. And then another thing that you do is you go to the reptile show and you buy 1,500 super worms and you take a handful of super worms and you chuck it in the enclosure. And when they go to the bathroom, the super worms will start to eat it. And you end up with this super worm colony that's being supplied and grown off of false water cobra shit. But it ends up working out well. Like, you have to actively attack the crap. You can't just sit back with them. But if you do it, you're good. If you don't do it, that's when like it doesn't work.
I accidentally did the same thing with a Savannah monitor and mealworms. I took a bunch of, when I was interning at the zoo, they had mealworms. They had all these beetles, and like nothing eats the beetles. Like, well, I'll take them home. We'll see if the Savannah monitor eat them. No, nothing eats the beetles. But a time went by, and I was like, "Oh, Katie's like, have you been cleaning the cage? I haven't cleaned shit out of that cage in weeks." And all of a sudden, I caught it one day after shit, and I looked, and of course, there's little mealworms coming up from underneath, eating all the shit, and then going back down in the bedding. I was like, "Oh, that's nice."
I do that with everything. Gets mealworms because during my field season, because I'm a field biologist too, I travel a lot.
Yeah, I know. You got to go see boas and all that stuff.
I have to have a mechanism to deal with the crap with my wife, because if everything does sequential crapping the hour after I leave, like 100%. The hour after I leave, everyone's going to crap. Someone's going to vomit.
That's like fucking baby children. My daughter, whenever Katie would leave the house, 15 minutes after she's gone, explosive diaper. I'm like, what the fuck? Katie comes home and she gets like nice little turds. We're like, oh, look, throw this away. No, I get the all up the back and shit everywhere.
I never had one of those. Never.
Yeah, no.
It was all dad.
So this isn't me like trying to be swanky. This is literally me trying to survive. So
Well, it's like you also have bloods, and I know from being
Oh
friends with April, like when they go to the bathroom, they fucking go.
it's insane. Yeah,
I've never seen anything put that much liquid out of its body for the size that snake is.
Yep.
It was mind blowing for me.
They just hold on to it for forever, and they're like, today's a good day to go ahead and drop 5 gallons of liquid. Enjoy this.
It's crazy.
My bull snake hasn't eaten in 3 weeks. And so Saturday, I, took him out for the class and whatnot. We get home and he pooped like 2 weeks ago.
He's a Kaluber that eat once, poop 17 times.
I know, but I just wasn't thinking anything about it. We get home and I don't know. Somebody was looking out for me because I opened up the tub and he had taken this massive shit on the way home. And I'm just like, oh my God, 5 more minutes of handling. And that would have been on me in the class.
Oh, yeah.
It was disgusting.
All right, I was going to run through more of these things real quick. Travis posted this cool thing from the Orient Society. It's a scarlet snake.
Mm-hmm.
They say amelanistic. Travis thinks it may be like hypomelanistic. I don't know, but either way, it's really cool. It looks kind of albino, but Travis is a doctor. I will disagree with Travis. I think it's albino. Fuck you, Travis.
We're gonna get a text message about that now, right?
I'm sure. Max Hicks posted. I've seen this before. I always laugh at the, it's the funny joke with Americans. Like we'll use anything but the metric system to measure stuff. And so this one was the police rescued an Ariana Grande sized alligator from a basement.
Yeah.
One Ariana Grande apparently is the size of an alligator. I'm like, we will use pretty much anything. Oh, you posted the primer book on amphibians and reptiles.
Yes.
I want to get that. I've seen it several times.
It's awesome. I'm really annoyed because I actually can't find my copy. It is somewhere in my house and I was going to bring it to my class on Saturday and I can't find it. But it's a gorgeous book. It's hardcover.
Your husband hid it from you.
Probably. And it also goes, the proceeds from the book support the Louisiana Exotic Animal Resource Network, which is an awesome nonprofit in Louisiana. And they do so much good work rehabbing.
It's a super educational book. Like it's got a lot of like natural history type stuff in it.
Super educational. I mean, it covers.
And it's a big book.
It's a pretty thick book. It covers all sorts of different species throughout the United States. It's fantastic, and it's great for kids, for adults, for people who are already into reptiles or just learning about reptiles. Cool. It's just an all around like you got to have it in your. And
collection. It's a massive book, and it's only like $30-something if you order it brand new from the guy that has like it's. Don't go on Amazon to get it because it's like $300-something on Amazon. But you can totally get it for $37 or some dollars from the guy that wrote it. So.
You could get it for cheaper too. There's actually a section on his website where they have copies available that maybe there's a small issue with it, like there's a smudge on a page or something didn't print quite right, and you can get it I think for like 20% off or something like that.
I've seen it for sale at herp shows. That's because it's in Louisiana. That's where the group's from.
Yeah.
But there were several things posted this week of birds and snakes not getting along. One was a secretary bird. The secretary bird had a snake wrapped around its neck, and it looked like it was wearing a scarf. The person said when they left, the secretary bird's head started drooping. Like it may have got there's no way on earth the snake could actually eat the secretary bird because it's a massive bird, small snake. But the bird may have actually died from that. And then there's a video someone posted of a duck that was bobbing upside down because there was a snake wrapped around its head that it definitely could not eat. And they got it on land and they got it off of it. And it was a frog. It wasn't a snake. It was a bullfrog. The bullfrog had eaten the duck's face and was holding him down, which obviously the bullfrog couldn't eat a full-grown duck. There's this picture here of a meadowlark fucking with a bull snake. And eventually the meadowlark leaves, but it's a good-sized bull snake.
I can't believe that snake didn't go after it.
I'm just amazed at the fights that some birds will pick with things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, birds don't give a fuck.
That's why I hate mockingbirds.
Yeah, I have a couple that nest in the tree in our backyard every year.
Fuck mockingbirds.
They dive bomb my dogs.
Nathan posted a video of a person swimming and being chased by, I'm assuming maybe a caiman or something. I don't think it's an alligator. And he said, even if something comes at you in the water, it just bumps you. And I told him it wouldn't matter because the heart attack that I had wouldn't have really mattered. I'd have been dead anyways.
Oh, I'd have shit myself if I was.
Oh, I'd shit myself and had a heart attack. Also, I don't think I'd have been trying to. At some point, I'm turning around and I'm punching this bitch. I'm at least going to try to put up a fight. It's not grabbing me from behind.
Your comments made me laugh very hard on that post.
Well, and then there's this
Because
guy.
I know you so well. And I'm like, oh, goodness.
Well, then there's this guy working at some sort of facility or gator park or something. He's feeding like full-grown gators, and there's like 5 or 6 of them just like right up on top of him. He's like reaching down, like pushing their faces away. And I'm thinking, maybe you should feed them from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's not wise.
I mean, I've been the closest I got bit. I say bit. My pants got bit once by a crocodile, and I never took my eyes off alligators or crocodiles for that day ever. Like, I was very careful to make sure I knew where they are, and I had a way out. Like, this guy couldn't get to the gate because the alligator. He got out eventually, but be smarter. Travis posted this was an interesting fossil. It was a turd.
Coprolite.
Yeah, they found poop with a footprint in it of some sort of crocodilian that apparently stepped on this turd, and then the turd got covered and turned into a fossil. And so they have this partial footprint of a crocodilian inside of poop, which is just a fun fossil. This was actually on Travis posted this, but I saw it on Zach's thing. It was, I tried to understand it, but it was about fucking salamanders.
It took me 7 times, and I understood it for 20 minutes, and then I was like, I'm going to share this, and I'm done.
It has to do with like this entire female group of salamanders stealing sperm from other salamanders.
Not their own species, by the way.
Yeah, not their own species. Using the useful parts, and then just kind of like they have the unuseful parts, but they don't use them.
I watched that and was like, this is Star Trek level shit. Like, because they don't have males in their population, so they're just getting what they need from the other males, but they're not getting everything. And then I thought, I'm going to have to teach this crap one day, so I'm going to share it now so I can go back in my timeline later and have this cheat, like this video I can watch to
because they found females with or they found
all the different species were in
multiple,
the one species genome.
Yeah, multiple versions of the DNA. It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And then I posted an old picture of an albino orca, which I just thought was cool. And I think that was it. That was what we had. So that was it. Katie, do you have anything? Nope.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I know
It is not you personally at all. I promise.
It's the end of the year.
I get it.
It's 9:05 and it's past my bedtime.
It's been a long day.
Megan, do you have anything?
And we have field day tomorrow.
I have nothing.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So Zach,
was I supposed to have
No.
You were a wonderful guest, though.
Oh,
yeah.
I really enjoyed.
I
all
have
the
to say,
conversations
I don't know
tonight.
if you've ever been told this, but on camera, you look a lot like Alton Brown. Doesn't he?
Alton Brown.
He
Oh,
totally does.
never been told that a
See
day
it
in my
now.
life.
I do.
Do you see it?
I mean, I can see,
I see it now.
but
It's
I
'cause I'm wearing the
smiles a lot
glasses.
more.
I don't
He's-
wear my glasses normally, but
Yeah,
I
it's
have
the
to 'cause I'm
glass-
getting old.
He
So I have the
smiles a lot
glasses
more than
on.
Alton Brown does, though.
yeah, with the glasses,
Alton Brown. I'm telling my wife
I
that
can
when I
see
get
it.
home. Actually, tomorrow's her last day being a teacher, so she's in a coma right now.
Yeah.
I know she's in a coma. She was fading when I drove up here at 6.
We had I've been out the last couple of weeks, and some of our listeners are probably trying to figure out why we had a death in the family. And so I very much was like, I don't want to do the podcast tonight. Like, I just want to break. I just don't want to have to think. And James talked me into it, and I'm really glad he did. It was nice to get back into my normal routine. So
Well, and I've heard you on several podcasts, Zach, and I was like, and then Drew from the Learning Zoo is the one that suggested when I asked him, hey, give me 2 people. And he's like, Zac Loughman. I was like, why do I know that name? I know why I know that name because I've actually messaged you before, and I've heard you on several podcasts. I was like, yes, I want to have Zach on because he has an awesome program up there that I never got to be a part of because it didn't exist.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I'll send you up there for a summer. I'm sure they do
There you
summer
go.
classes.
Well, it's funny because when I went to school, I wanted to be a reptile keeper, and the only school that basically had anything reptile related was Florida.
Yep.
Like that was it. If you wanted to do reptile stuff, go to Florida. And
that's pretty accurate, actually.
And now it's cool to see it pop up other places and see other people, other programs starting to focus around, especially like some of the zoo stuff. Because again, there's only a handful of zoo places, and for what you have and what you do in the master's program, because again, it's weird, and I don't always agree with it. but having that master's degree behind your name does open doors for you.
It does. I don't agree with it either, for the record. So my mentor for crayfish, little backstory on this. This is what keeps me humble. He has a 4-year degree. For his master's degree, his advisor gave him this crawdad that is like a freaking taxonomic nightmare. And he started working on its taxonomy in 1973. And he's literally going out in the field a month from now to keep working on that project. So he's been doing this for like almost 50 years.
Is it a matter of trying to key it out or figure out how different?
The traits that the things you use to identify it are horrible. So you can't like get black and white traits to make a taxonomic key and describe the different species. But like, he is literally the smartest guy that I know. And he was excluded from a graduate degree because of his poor advising. So, degrees are necessary, and it's kind of crap that I always say that they're the key that opens the door. And I don't know if that's necessarily right that we're that way, because a lot of people have a lot of knowledge, and you don't necessarily have to go to college to get that knowledge. But unfortunately, the way society works, you have to have the damn degrees to get those doors completely open.
For a lot of things, I don't have a degree, but I don't work in a field that requires one. But
there you go.
Good living.
Well, and in this hobby, there are so many people that know so much. So this is my knock on AZA. I've always had a problem with AZA's outlook on private keepers, especially when it comes 100%. to breeding. There are so many private keepers who can breed some of these endangered things 1,000,000 times better than any zoological park could, but because they're a private guy in their house breeding like the guy in the breeds pine snakes, he can breed pine snakes better than anybody probably on earth, but they're never going to let him do anything because he's not a zoo.
I agree with you 100%. That's one of my soapboxes, actually. And I now get to be at the table, and it's kind of fun because people have assumed that I don't think that. And then I'm at the table and like, well, we can't figure out how to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then I start going, what about the private sector? And then they're like, well, and then I go. Because I'll say this with everybody listening, because our school, I don't want to like have this recorded for all the time, so I've got to think about how I say this.
I understand that too.
But it was very difficult for me to make it into AZA and have people take me seriously because I wasn't part of AZA. It is
coming from an AZA zoo. I completely understand that.
There you go.
So you have to go through accreditation also, don't you?
We do and we don't. So we're going to try to become AZA accredited. And then I started talking with a lot of people, and they actually said, don't get it. Because if you want to do research, you're going to have to, like, the bureaucracy and the red tape for you to do anything is going to be so crippling that you want your freedom. So we pay to be part of AZA. And we have the membership in AZA that enables us to work with certain SSPs, species survival plans, but they're the ones that are kind of open-ended. But no, I had several herp curators flat out say to me, like, don't do it because it's going to limit you. So we didn't do it. But the private sector got me to where I am. I tell everybody that. Like, all this herpetoculture stuff I'm doing in an academic setting, I tried to go and find books, and the books were like veterinary manuals, which are not necessarily what I was looking for. And so, like, I tell everybody, I spent a lot of time on eBay and I hunted down every freaking copy of the Vivarium, that old magazine.
Oh, yeah.
We have a complete run. We have a complete run of reptiles, and a lot of people crap on reptiles because the current version of reptiles isn't that great.
No, but I
love
the
version that I got. The old version.
I have a stack of old ones back here.
In high school, man, like the 90s
awesome.
Version is wonderful. So I've got every one of those. And when I send my kids to get material for their projects, it's like using the Dewey Decimal System. They go to where they don't know what to do because they're like, what about PDF? I'm like, I don't have a PDF. Go find the magazine. It's in that, like,
what's the magazine? How do I get to the next page?
But that's like the material we use. And then podcasts. That's why I got into podcasts. I was trying to find stuff and I found NPR. when I was starting, and I've listened to every episode of NPR, all 11 years worth. It's been fun to watch Eric and Owen's like transformation over time.
Yes.
But no, and listening to people in the private sector, not everybody's great, but there's plenty of people that are. So that's my take on that.
Crocodile Encounter that's here. We went there a couple weeks ago and he showed us behind the scenes. And because we had him on the podcast a few weeks back, he has an entire room full of baby Chinese alligators.
So
Yeah.
And no one stole one for me.
Nope. I didn't even take a bath.
But just tons of them. And I'm like, he definitely breeds them better than probably most AZA zoos are trying to do. Yeah. And he's warned them before. He said, look, we're going to end up breeding more than you want us to breed. And AZA's just been like, they kind of laughed at him. And he's like, no, we're going to have a lot of them. And so he's just going to keep breeding.
So precious.
So I'm hoping
he took us in there to see him.
I'm hoping one falls off the back of a truck at some point.
Yep. And AZA definitely is great on certain fronts, but that is a criticism I have, is that like, stop being so cliquey. If you're in this for conservation, which is what I am first and foremost as a conservation biologist, and you shouldn't like let bureaucracy and ego get in the way of saving a species from extinction. Like,
it definitely has.
Somebody breeds them better, and if Jim Bob breeds them better in a kiddie pool in his backyard because he has everything that works there, then give him to Jim Bob and get him out of like the zoo that doesn't have the facilities to get it done right.
Or at least have Jim Bob come in and show you what he's doing, and then you do it like he is.
Yep.
Yes.
Will McCready said, am I mistaken, or does one of the guys from Call You Bird Corner podcast work with crayfish also?
That's me.
That's like that. Yes, he does. That's Zach.
Yeah,
nice.
No, Call You Bird Corner, sorry, is that's Owen and Riley. And then Matt and I are Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
That's right, Colubroid. That's right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Which is a whole other thing, because the Colubroid thing always confused me.
Yeah. Well,
like, don't add a whole other word. But anyways, Zach, if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to come up there and get a master's degree in zoological sciences and everything else and play with reptiles and get bit by big ass false water cobras.
Yes. Look me up on social media. I'm on Facebook. It's just Zac Loughman. And then on Instagram, my students convinced me to do this, and it killed me a little.
Yeah, I tagged you with the name.
And I am Dr. Crawdad on Instagram, which my university, for the record, thinks is like the greatest thing on earth.
I'm just telling you, I'm going to need your shirt size.
So here's the thing,
because I already have like 6 shirt designs in my head with that on there.
Double
so I'm
XL.
gonna need your shirt size.
I'm telling you right now.
Double XL.
You're sitting on gold mine here.
Oh my
you
God.
need to do TikTok and take that name to TikTok and just have your students help you figure out TikTok stuff with crawfish.
Yeah.
And
that's fabulous.
It'll be amazing. Some fun
we tried
music
to
with
do it for
crawfish.
Zoosci and it fizzled, but the TikTok, I don't understand the TikTok thing. That's
I don't have a TikTok.
Generation thing ends for me. I can't.
One of my coworkers, I went in at lunch today. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm watching TikTok because I'm bored. I'm like, I don't even have TikTok.
So as a kid, I always my parents would always buy me the same phone they had so I could figure it out and teach them how to use it. I'm like, how can you not figure this out? And now that I've gotten older, I'm like, oh shit, you reach an age where you no longer understand shit.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand, but then you reach another age where you just don't give a shit. That's where I am.
I haven't got there yet. I want to understand some of the shit.
Yeah, no, I don't want to know how to work I just want to be able to hit the button, and get the message. Like, that's all I want. Yeah.
So
feel that in my soul.
Yes.
But
so anyway, but no, that's where you can find me. And anybody that's interested in that grad degree, I said this on our podcast last night. I'm going to say it everywhere. I literally have an open graduate assistantship just sitting, waiting for a grad student to come up here and work with all those reptiles, do their thesis. I just spent, in the past month, I spent 2 weeks in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
We're setting up a herpetoculture thing down there. I mean, like, I don't understand. I literally, this is how I'm designing this whole thing. I think about when I was 20 and what I wanted to do. And now I'm doing it for the other people that are 20, and I can't figure out why people aren't coming. Like, we have people coming, but I just need one more. So that's wide open. Just reach out to me and we'll have a conversation. So,
I would have killed for that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
When it didn't require me to be a grad student, I would be like, hell yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not a school person. I tried it twice and was just not my
Well,
jam.
let me say something else, because this is something that I did think about, and then we can get off. Like, a lot of people think, like, oh, he's Dr. Loughman, he's an academic. I had a 2.9 GPA as an undergrad. I failed Gen Chem 3 times. The first time I took pre-calc, the professor called me in for an office hour. I went to school here where I teach, so it was like small school environment. And he was like, and this is back in the early 2000s, late 90s, where it was not the world we live in. And he literally looked at me and said, okay, I don't know how to say this, but I heard a lot about you, and I thought you were supposed to be smart. So, because you got a 12 in this class. That was pre-calc. So I can't do math. I can make a spreadsheet do the math.
This is you. This
can't
is
do
you
math.
made over.
I failed physics.
Oh my
He
God.
told a
physics.
high
I
school-
don't want to talk about physics.
It's the only class I've ever failed in my whole life. And I was like,
That's the one you took at the community college, right?
no, that was
I was-
organic chem.
Organic chem.
I got engaged with my wife. I was accepted to grad school, and I had to pass physics. In the last semester of my life as an undergrad, I studied 8 hours a day. And when I say that I got my pinky knuckle across the finish line to get my D, I had a 70.9%.
Oh my God.
Fuck you.
Sorry,
I had a
60.9.
D.
See, I can't even do the math now.
No, I had a D, and that's why I failed, because I had to take physics 2 for my major. And they're like, well, you can't go on to physics 2 unless you have a C.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
what the fuck? So
No,
I had to take
I was
physics 1
fortunate.
twice.
And my dad took me out to eat for 1 grade. Like, when I got my PhD, didn't take me out to eat. But when I got that D in physics 2, I got a giant steak. Like, the whole family was
Nice.
It was crazy. So I understand that, and we've done. I don't want to say that we've made it easy, because we haven't made it easy, but I'm in charge, and so I know what you need to get these degrees. So, like the undergrad degree, there's no physics, there's no organic. Depending on which track you take in ZooSci, you take the single semester chemistry. Like, we've whittled, but we make up for those credit hours with people taking animal behavior or herpetology, mammalogy, ornithology, animal nutrition, like all these classes you actually use, because I'm
too bad I
very
don't.
pragmatic.
It's too bad I don't live in West Virginia.
You
There
could
you
move
go.
to West Virginia. He said he could do a lot of it online.
I have zero desire to move to West Virginia. That was
Do you need
that was-
another master's degree,
that was
James?
the
Is that
grad-
what we're getting at here?
That was
No,
the
'cause I
grad
won't.
You've
program.
never had to pay for school before.
I don't want to start paying for school now.
No,
no.
that's why I actually
don't-
tried to go back to school, and there was a program I was looking at, and it was for out of state, and they told me the cost, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I just can't justify this.
Yeah,
I can't.
got you.
My undergrad was paid for by ACT scores, and I got paid to get my master's degree. I'm not going back to school.
No.
No,
Yeah.
you did it right.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is about West Virginia and Virginia in that spot. If Warren ends up moving, you're going to have Warren, Zach, and Travis all right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weirdest combination of
It's going
like,
to be an awesome trifecta. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Maybe there's what's going on over there that the rest
And we
of us need
literally
to know
make a
about.
triangle. That's the other thing.
That's very cool.
like if you want to study anything reptile
Just
related,
move to that triangle.
go there.
Yeah.
Go up there.
We got to
No,
come up
I
with some
passed
like
Virginia
cool.
Tech, going to my field sites in South Carolina, and I will definitely be popping in on Warren. I can't see him in Oklahoma, but I can totally see him now.
You're gonna
Yeah.
have to come up with some cool like Bermuda Triangle type
Mhm.
Like a
name
shirt.
for
You need
it.
a shirt with
With a yes. Okay.
all the doctors.
This is how you know
There
I'm
you go.
tired. I'm starting to get crafty.
Yeah, there you go.
Then I'm gonna get my second wind and I'm gonna be miserable for field day tomorrow.
All right, so let's let Zach get out of here. Let's go ahead and do our outros. If you want to get a hold of us here at the show, it's the Reptile Gumbo podcast on Instagram, Facebook, or at gmail.com. Don't forget about our giveaway for this month. We've got 1 week left. All you got to do is take a picture of your US ARC membership and go post it on the post that is pinned at the top of our Facebook page. And you're in the drawing of this amazing mandala behind me on the wall, which unfortunately will have to go to somebody's house and no longer be in mine.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. There's a picture of it on the Facebook page as well. And if you're not a member of US ARC, fuck you. Yeah, fuck you.
Just join.
Be a member of US ARC.
Just join.
It's vitally important, especially if you own any sort of, really at this point, any sort of exotic. If you own a bird, a fish, a hamster, the money for US ARC will definitely help you in the long run, especially right now with decisions about to be made in certain areas. But don't forget our promo code Gumbo22. Go order your VivTech light bulb, get you some UVB light for your reptiles. That's it. That's all I got. Thank y'all for joining us. Zach, thanks for joining us. Hang out
Thank
one
you.
second as we go by. Goodbye, everybody. See y'all next week.